the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get involved, get stuck in, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number. And I promise to play your message out. It is Friday, March the 13th, unlucky for some. Here's what's coming up. A snapshot of mad modern Britain, a once great country that has lost its way. At the weekend, we will allow a gathering of our enemies, supporters of Iran, at a huge rally in central London. Meanwhile, to the east of London, a Boy Scouts St George's Day parade looks like it's going to be banned. I think it may well have been banned now. Too tricky, apparently, for the police to guarantee the safety of the patriotic kids who just want to celebrate England and all that is still good about it. In a week when the Bank of England proudly revealed what was called its overdue decision to remove Winston Churchill from all banknotes and replace him with wildlife scenes, now the Scouts can't pay homage to their own nation. But the lunatic Ayatollah fans are permitted to pay homage to the terrorist hellhole Iran. What is going on? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, the Keir Starmer pantomime continues apace as our shameless liar of a Prime Minister deludes himself that he's not finished. Oh, yes, he is, especially after today's shock revelation that Two-Tier didn't even talk to that loathsome creep Mandelson before making the egregious mistake of appointing him as ambassador to Washington. That was left to two of Mandy's mates, former Downing Street Chief of Staff Morgan McSweeney and ex-communications chief Matthew Doyle. And Starmer vowed to the Commons that the full vetting process was followed. Really? That was a lie. It's one thing for our supreme leader to lie as a way of life, which of course he does. It's quite another to lie to Parliament. How much longer can this useless little man carry on ruining this country? 0344 499 1000. Also on today's show, British soldiers under attack from Tehran, the Strait of Hormuz oil blockade and the grim prospect of astronomical petrol prices, the huge cost of translation at the NHS doubles, and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now, on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday afternoon together. Let's go straight over to my first guest. He is the Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. Welcome, Philip.
Hi, Kev. It's great to see you again.
Always a pleasure to have you on the show. It really is. And let's get cracking first of all. I'm going to cover this story in just a second with the local MP, Andrew Rosendale, who was until recently a Tory and switched to Reform. But it looks as if a Boy Scouts St George's parade in the Romford area is going to be banned because the police say we can't guarantee the safety of the participants. So the council have told the Scouts, sorry, you know, it doesn't look like you can have this march. So a Boy Scouts St George's Day parade is banned. Meanwhile, in central London, we don't ban a massive rally of our enemies, people who support the Ayatollah, people who support Iran. This is a rally to pay homage to the Ayatollah and his tyrannical, murderous regime. We're allowing that, but we ban a St George's Day parade. Doesn't that sum up everything that is wrong with this country?
Oh, it really does. I mean, it's sickening just to read about it and look at it. But I mean, what we have really is the parading of terror support, the sectarian terror support that is riven right through our society now. And we cannot celebrate. I mean, what is more innocent? What is more wholesome? What is more British, actually, than the Boy Scout movement, this, and patriotism folded in together. That is what these people hate. But we are bowing to, and it gets worse and worse every day, doesn't it? We are bowing to the pressure of extremists. There's always this threat of violence at the back of everything they do. Meanwhile, they'll be walking down the street, they'll be paying homage to the Ayatollah, as I always say, tears for Hitler. That's on the front, that's right on our streets. That's what's happening. We're actually at war with this terrorist rogue state, but that doesn't matter because the police are going to allow this to go on. This is kind of treason, isn't it, in a way? This is like flouted on our streets. I've never known anything like it. And I keep seeing every day there is something that just pushes us further and further towards the brink of something which is awful, which nobody wants, but it's going to manifest itself in civil unrest at some point during this summer. But it's difficult to think, Kev, what could possibly be worse than a parade through the streets of Britain to not only celebrate but venerate possibly one of the worst people and the worst terror state in the world.
Yeah, and all these lefties, these liberals, Guardian readers, are always going, oh, you've got to get hate crimes, they're terrible, oh, we're going to stop hate crimes. Well, it seems to me that almost on a daily basis, culturally, we as a nation commit hate crimes against our own country. I would suggest it's a hate crime against common decency to ban little Boy Scouts from marching to celebrate their own country. St George's Day Parade. This we learn on the same week that the Bank of Bloody England has proudly decided to remove Winston Churchill's pictures from all of our banknotes, fivers, tenors, £20 notes, £50 notes, and replace them with wildlife scenes, birds flapping around. I love wildlife. I'm very keen on our feathered friends and all that. But why are they more important than our greatest leader, the man who saved this nation in our darkest hour? And the Bank of England, they announced that this was a decision that was overdue. I mean, why are we destroying pride in our own country? Why are we annihilating patriotism? What's going on?
Yeah, well, I think you've got to look at the process, haven't you? And what they tried to do is annihilate his reputation. So if they can't make him bad, they will just make him disappear, because the British people won't stand for that. Winston Churchill is a hero to us. He always will be. But they have over the years, haven't they? They've tried to make him racist. He's the epitome of colonialism. He was born in, 1875, I think, for God's sake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is what they do. They impose their ridiculous, trumped-up rules of today on something that's 150 years ago. I think, that's one thing. But what we have in every single way, and I'm just thinking back, because I still can't get I'd love to know what viewers think about this march,
that's what well, let me put
I really want them to fill it. But can I just make the point? This is what we have. It starts with asymmetric multiculturalism, doesn't it? In other words, celebrating every other culture than our own. And at some point, it becomes pathological, and we turn in on ourselves, and it becomes cancerous, and we eat ourselves while allowing these obviously poisonous cultures, these cultures that hate us, to flourish in our own country. And then the next stage is the stage that I'm worried about. We're already on the brink of that next stage. So that's where we are.
Yeah, and we need to reflect. It's a good question, that one, Philip, and I'll put it to the viewers. What do you think about this?
Yeah,
let's just give me a call. We're banning Boy Scouts St George's Day Parade, because the police say they can't keep people safe. I'd like to know why a St George's Day Boy Scouts parade is so bloody dangerous. I really would. But the police are allowing a massive rally in central London, making big play. Oh, not allowed to go on a march, but it will be static. Oh, what's the big difference? You know, what is going on here, folks? 0344 499 1000. Let's move on, Philip. Now, our boys, our soldiers, our military troops in northern Iraq at a British base there have been under serious fire from Tehran. They've got so many drone missiles raining down on our serving soldiers in northern Iraq that they've run out of those protective anti-aircraft missiles. They've had to call for more. Those guys are in a fight for their lives. They share that base with Americans. Quite a few Americans have been injured. We gather French soldiers there also have been injured. Mercifully, so far, no Brits. But this is a direct attack from Tehran on a British base, deliberate. Meanwhile, we know there were 2 drone missiles fired at the airbase that Britain has on Cyprus, sovereign British territory. We did nothing about that. We just had a Prime Minister who said, we call for de-escalation. They said, we're under attack from an enemy. And now this is happening in northern Iraq. And as far as I understand it, Keir Starmer's line is still, we call for de-escalation. Are we now a nation that allows an enemy to militarily attack us, to bomb us, and we do nothing about it? What has happened to this country?
Yeah, I mean, we do nothing about it, and we're hideously unprepared as well. So those soldiers, our armed forces out there, are vulnerable. They're vulnerable because our government hasn't done the prerequisites, put the prerequisites in place. I mean, HMS Dragon did it set off today or yesterday?
No, it set off, to be fair, I think it was 2 days ago, eight days after the Prime Minister deployed it. And the Chief of Defence Staff, Sir Richard Knighton, who needs to raise his game, to be honest, was praising the troops and the staff who'd worked round the clock to get this ship ready for deployment in just 8 days. Well done, Sir Richard. Yes, magnificent. We're all so proud. It's unbelievable. One little ship. By the way, it's covered in rust when it finally left Portsmouth, but one little ship. The French have sent a massive fleet out there. Obviously, the Americans are all... this is embarrassing, humiliating.
Well, last time we were talking about it, they were still welding it, actually, and I think that was only on Monday. So credit me with an error. It went the day before I thought it would. But what we have here is this refusal to face reality. If you are a government, if you are a prime minister and you are on a war footing, then you have to take that seriously. You're either at war or you're not, because if you equivocate and you prevaricate in some kind of way, you are going to put innocent people's, service people's lives at risk. So what we should have done is go all out in terms of not in terms of aggression, but in terms of preparation, in terms of doing the work, understanding what this kind of stuff means for our people, our country, and our economy as well. It feels as though nobody knows what's going on, and nobody has the vaguest idea what the potential ramifications could be for people in terms of bills, in terms of fuel, in terms of energy, and all of that kind of thing. Maybe they should have thought about all of this before, and maybe, just maybe, sorry Kev, just maybe they should have had 1 or 2 more ships going out there earlier, so they could protect that strait and actually do something about it, intercede and stop it happening.
Absolutely, and there's a certain synergy to our conversation. I've just thought, what is the motto of the Boy Scouts? It's be prepared.
Be prepared.
Perhaps the Boy Scouts should have a word with Sir Richard Knighton, the Chief of Defence Staff, and say, do you know what our motto is? Maybe you should take it on board. Unbelievable. Let's quickly talk about our Supreme Leader, Sir Keir Starmer, who I genuinely think he deludes himself he can carry on. He cannot now. Now, apart from the fact that much of the Mandelson files, as they're now called, were clearly not published. Some of them are fair enough because of the police investigation, but we now know that a lot of it was redacted to spare Starmer's blushes. Loads of details not involved. Now, the people who hired Mandelson was not Starmer. Starmer's like a technocratic delegator. So he didn't even, we learnt this today, it's shocking. He didn't even talk to Peter Mandelson before appointing him to the key position of our ambassador to Washington. Didn't even talk to him. He left that to two of Mandelson's mates, Morgan McSweeney and Matthew Doyle. Morgan McSweeney, of course, the ex-chief of Downing Street staff, and Matthew Doyle, the ex-communications chief, also at Downing Street, both of whom now, conveniently, have left. They're no longer there. But to leave the vetting process, per se, in person to two of his friends is ludicrous. Now, this brings into sharp focus that Keir Starmer is in a world of technical problem, because he stood in the House of Commons and said, I can assure you that the full due process, the full proper vetting process was carried out. This is not a debate. From what we learned the other day, it just wasn't. He lied to the House of Commons. He lied to Parliament. I mean, that could be serious. Now, we're all fond of saying, well, he'll have to go come the May elections. But I think what we're learning from the Mandelson saga is that his lack of judgment, his mistakes, his lies are so egregious that he may have to go sooner. We can't carry on like this. And when he made that excuse, he can't do a damn thing right. When he made that excuse yesterday, said, I take full responsibility and I apologise for the mistake. We should know, I did know about his relationship with a paedophile, a child sex abuser, and so on and so on. He was in a room full of babies and children. I mean, can this guy get anything right?
So, I mean, if we just get it right and we just think about what's happened, this is the grossest dereliction of duty imaginable. He's let Mandelson's mate. This is marking your own homework. You know, this is how bad it is, and it just feels as though this is unprecedented. I can't think of another leader who's lurched from self-made crisis to crisis to crisis to crisis. All of this is of his own making because he's just incompetent. Not only is he incompetent, he doesn't care, and he's living in this kind of he's living in this fantasy world, which must be weird for him because he's governing not only by the day, he's governing by the half day at the moment, because it's just crisis mismanagement, and as I've said before, this is a very dangerous place for us to be because he's so obsessed with holding on to power.
With himself.
You know what he's going to do. You don't know what he's going to do.
They talk about him putting party interest before the nation. He's not thinking of the party. He's not thinking of he's certainly not thinking of the nation. He's not thinking of the Labour Party. He's thinking of himself. What we're witnessing is an extraordinary display of selfishness and also, of course, incompetence, deceit, lies. It's absolutely atrocious. Now, just before you go, Philip, let's treat you to the picture of the day. It's a new picture. It's Jeffrey Epstein with his best friends, Prince Andrew and our friend Mandelson. Mandelson, throughout his time with Jeffrey Epstein, seemed to be in a bathrobe. I think when he arrived on Pedo Island, he didn't bring any suitcases, no clothes, just a bathrobe. Every picture, bathrobe. So bathrobed Mandy, bathrobed Prince Andrew, and Epstein actually unconventionally wearing some clothes there. I mean, you know, this is just, it's disgusting to behold all of this, isn't it?
I mean, it really is. You have to laugh because if you don't, you'll be sick. It's that bad. But I'm just looking at Mandelson there and his grinning face. It's almost as though he's looking out of the photograph and grinning at Starmer there, isn't it? You can imagine Starmer's face when he saw that. But look at Andrew. Doesn't he look shifty? Doesn't he look as though something going on there? And the ghostly Epstein in the background there, or, you know, orchestrating both of these useful idiots for himself. It's a really powerful image, that, isn't it? In terms of how it's set out.
It's nauseating. It's absolutely nauseating. This is an image of the elitism the us and them world that hopefully the Epstein files and now the Mandelson files will destroy, so that from now on, loathsome little crawl asses like Mandelson will not be able to prosper like he has. Absolutely disgusting picture that sums up this entire sordid saga. Philip, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Philip Kisley, their senior fellow from the New Culture Forum. Let's go to break, and next up we will talk more about the shocking saga of Keir Starmer's hopeless handling of the Peter Mandelson ambassador to the USA appointment. That next, stay tuned.
Day today.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me every weekend from 6 a.m. for the stories that matter to you. We talk politics, we talk news, we talk entertainment, we talk about everything that affects your life. There's only one place to start your weekend, the home of common sense. Talk Breakfast on Talk. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Friday, Saturday and Sunday here on the home of common sense.
Good morning to you. This is Talk, the home of common sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files as released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. While he's in the studio, very pleased to welcome the local MP for where that St George's Day parade by the Boy Scouts over in East London in the Romford area was due to unfold. He's got some good news. Well, let's talk. It's Andrew Rossendale, former Tory, now Reform UK. He's kind enough to come in. But as I was saying, Andrew, so the situation is that on Sunday we have what's likely to be a pretty damn big rally, a protest or a demonstration to support our enemies, Iran and the Ayatollah. Now, the police have said, well, if you go on a march, that'll be a bit much. But yes, you can have it. You can have that. Yes, we'll police that. Boy Scouts in your constituency were planning a St George's Day parade And the police said, oh, we can't possibly do that. You know, we can't guarantee people's safety, and therefore we can't come out. Now, what they did say to the Boy Scouts was, well, all right, we'll send a couple of coffers if you give us 9,000 quid. That's outrageous. Your police can't even get off their backsides to go and help some Boy Scouts celebrate St George's Day. That is a disgrace. We want 9,000 quid. Well, a local businessman has come forward, so it looks as if hopefully this march will go ahead, but no thanks to the police, Andrew.
No, Kevin, it's completely outrageous that my local Romford and District Scouts, who have proudly paraded for St George's Day every year for decades, would be prevented from doing so because the police were simply not prepared to do the job that we pay them to do. They say we don't have the resources. Well, the fact is that in Havering, we pay hundreds of millions of pounds over the years for police, but Sadiq Khan, of course, controls resources. So a borough like Havering never gets its fair share of resources. Inner London always gets priority. Yeah. Now, as you've rightly said, you've got a demonstration of our enemies this weekend. We have other demonstrations constantly. Pro-Palestine, stop the oil, anti-capitalist, whatever it might be. The police are all over those. Yeah. Yet the Scouts celebrating English culture, English heritage, and flying the flag of St George, well, in a community event, and they're not prepared to support it. Outrageous. But luckily a businessman has come forward.
Can we hail him?
Yeah, absolutely. His name is Dean Floyd, and he runs Chigwell Construction. They do doors and windows, based in Collier Row, and he already supports the local Christmas events, and now he's come forward to support
Dean Floyd.
Dean Floyd of Chigwell Doors and Windows.
So Dean Floyd has saved the day. If it wasn't for Dean Floyd, this was cancelled, and the police are responsible for that. I don't like to blame frontline officers, rank and file coppers.
No, it's not them.
Yeah, we mustn't come down on ordinary hard-working cops. But police chiefs, they need their heads examined. There's something wrong with them. Why on earth are they banning or announcing we cannot police a Boy Scouts St George's Day parade, but we can police a huge gathering, frankly, of our enemies at a rally to support Iran and the Ayatollah? What is going on in modern Britain, Andrew?
I don't know, and I don't like it. What I do know is that we need to change things. I think that we do have a woke culture which has crept in. Now, I'm not saying this is because of wokery, but I do believe...
I think it is.
Well, it could well be. Who knows? But I'm not accusing anyone of that. What I am saying is that it seems to me if there's any other type of cultural event, the police and the authorities are all over it and they'll support it. If it's anything to do with England, my goodness, they seem to shy away from that. And the other people you need to blame, Kevin, is Havering Council, which is run by the so-called Residents Association, supposedly independent. Well, they went in with Labour and formed an administration 4 years ago, and they are now the ones saying, oh, we've got to ensure safety and all the rest of it. So they're the ones that have told the Scouts they've got to pay this £9,000 to pay for what is only a 20-minute parade. It's outrageous. So it's the police and Havering Council that are to blame for this absolute outrageous situation. Thanks to Dean Floyd, it's going ahead. But who's going to pay for it next year and the year after and the year after that?
And I wonder if the police have charged these Ayatollah supporters, the Al-Quds demonstrators who will gather on Sunday. I wonder if they've charged them. I don't know. It would be a lot more than the Boy Scouts parade, but there must be 50 grand or something. Are the police receiving any money from the Ayatollah's fans on Sunday? I bet they're not.
I bet they're not. And I tell you what, in our borough, Sadiq Khan takes huge sums of money for policing. Do you know they've closed all of our police stations in Havering except Romford, and even that's on reduced hours. So we very rarely see police. The police locally do a brilliant job, but they're under-resourced. They're not given a fair share of the resources that we in our borough pay for, because we're part of Greater London. Everything's about inner London, not areas on the edges. So that's why our Scouts don't get the police cover. That's why Sadiq Khan takes millions of pounds out of our council tax every year towards policing, and we're not getting the service we pay for.
Dean Floyd. Dean Floyd has saved the day, folks, but it would have been banned. It would have been banned because the police wouldn't allow it unless these poor Boy Scouts gave them $9,000. As I say, I will bet you that our Al-Quds friends, our Iranian fans, our Ayatollah fans on Sunday who will gather to support our enemy, why are we allowing this, will not be paying a penny. What is wrong with police chiefs? What is wrong with this country? This is in the week, Andrew, when the Bank of England proudly announced, it's a long overdue decision. We're taking Winston Churchill's image, his picture, off all of our banknotes and replacing him with wildlife scenes and wild birds. As I said earlier, I'm a big fan of our feathered friends, love wildlife and all that. But what possesses the Bank of England to say it's overdue to get rid of our greatest ever leader, the man who saved this nation and the West in its darkest hour?
Do you know, Kevin, it feels like our heritage, our culture, our proud history is being erased. It feels like the blob is taking all these things away from us. And I think the mood of the country is to actually be proud of our nation, our heritage, what our forebears achieved for this country, this small island nation. And Winston Churchill, I think, is the epitome of a great statesman who saved this country and Europe from Nazism and fought for freedom. I don't understand how the Bank of England possibly think that to take Winston Churchill off the banknotes and replace Winston Churchill for a cuddly animal, much as I love the cuddly animals,
me too,
it's
that's
not
my
what
view.
we should be doing.
My view, it's an erasing of our cultural history. It's almost like Cambodia, Pol Pot, year zero. Forget everything in the past, because they're not only taking Winston Churchill off our banknotes, also Jane Austen, one of our greatest authors. Don't like her much myself, but that's beside the point. She is a great English author. Also, they're taking a painter that I really do like. Well, possibly I would say our greatest ever painter, Turner. They're taking his picture. They're taking his paintings off as well. What is going on, folks? Why are they erasing our cultural history? It's a disgrace. 03444 99 1000, and let me know what you think about the police who essentially banned the Boy Scouts from a St George's Day parade, but they're perfectly cool with a bunch of Iranian fans and Ayatollah fans to have a demonstration on Sunday. 03444 499 1000. I can't let you go, Andrew, without getting your view on the latest in the downhill plummet of Sir Keir Starmer, our alleged Prime Minister. Kemi Badenoch, I mean, just saying, I think it's the Daily Mail, I haven't got it now, but she said he's lied and lied and lied. That is unusual for a leader of the opposition to go that hard. But it's true. It's true. This guy stood up in Parliament and said, I can assure you that the full due process and vetting process was carried out. Well, we've learnt today, this is extraordinary. I want to get your take on it, Andrew. This has emerged today that in the run-up to Peter Mandelson being appointed as our top diplomatic role, our man in Washington, the ambassador to the United States of America, the Prime Minister, whose job it was to appoint him and to vet him, never once spoke to him. He left that to two of Mandelson's mates, as in Morgan McSweeney, the then Chief of Staff, and Matthew Doyle, the then Chief of Communications. Now, that's his friends. You know, you don't get friends to vet people. That is not a good system. But your thoughts on the fact that the Prime Minister didn't even speak to Mandelson before giving him this job?
I think it's shocking. I think it's appalling. This is the ambassador, His Majesty's ambassador to the United States, and yet the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom couldn't even speak to the man to assess whether he's an appropriate person to take that job. And he delegated it to his friends to deal with that. And then he stands up in the House of Commons and claims that Mandelson lied. Well, maybe he did, but Starmer didn't do his job properly as Prime Minister. It's very rare, Kevin, that a ambassador is a political appointee. Normally, it's a career diplomat.
Yeah.
So it's very rare this happens. But when it does happen, it's got to be someone who's beyond reproach, someone of stature and integrity. Clearly, in this case, there were serious concerns which Starmer failed to address. He ignored the issue and he appointed someone to Washington, which has caused huge embarrassment and harm to our relationship with the United States. But also, I think it's discredited him as Prime Minister and this government.
And she's not your boss anymore, but you would agree with Kemi Badenoch. As I say, she's all over the front pages of the papers today saying that Starmer has lied and lied and lied. This, and her precise quote was something like, it's precise, something like, but it was along the lines of, this man is not fit to be the Prime Minister.
I don't think he's fit to be Prime Minister. I think he has failed the country miserably ever since entering number 10. There's been one scandal after another, U-turn after U-turn. Frankly, I don't think he should be there. And I think after the 7th of May, hopefully, when Labour is crushed in the polls, he will go. But frankly, Kemi Badenoch is not the answer, Kevin, I have to tell you. We need a Prime Minister that's really going to stand up for Britain, and that's Nigel Farage.
Well, it's not the Tories, that's for damn sure. I absolutely agree with that, and indeed Kemi. But the problem with our Navy, I mean, the Labour have done nothing to help the situation, but I'm afraid it's the Tories that have let our armed forces be diminished to an embarrassing level. It's unbelievable. I mean, I know America is a big country and all that, but America's got something like 290 warships. It should have, by the way, about 340. It too is depleted. We've got 8. I mean, I know it's a bigger country, but we are a big country too. We've got 70 million citizens, 70 million residents on this island, and 8 warships. No, 4 of them aren't ready at the moment. The one we finally got ready is chugging its way to Cuba as we speak. Meanwhile, we have a British military base under intense fire from Tehran. They've already attacked our air base in Cuba, and we've got a Prime Minister who's saying, we must de-escalate. No! Defend your people. We have soldiers who are under attack. Special forces in Iraq, and you're just going de-escalate. I just don't get it. Let me know what you think, folks. 03444991000. Big thanks to Reform UK MP for Romford, Andrew Rossendale, for coming in. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Kevin.
Next up, we'll talk more of the Mandelson saga, so stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go over to our next guest. We need to talk more of the sordid and the shocking Peter Mandelson saga. Let's talk to writer and former House of Commons clerk Elliot Wilson. Welcome, Elliot.
Good afternoon.
Pretty stunning revelations today after the Prime Minister assured the House of Commons that the full vetting process, full due process, was followed to the letter before the appointment of Peter Mandelson to the position of Ambassador to the United States of America. I mean, that looks like a flat-out lie as things stand, because we've learned today that in the run-up to Mandelson getting the gig, Starmer never once spoke to him. He left that to two of Mandelson's mates, Morgan McSweeney and Matthew Doyle, the former Chief of Staff and the former Communications Chief. Well, if you're vetting someone, if you're doing it properly, you don't get two of that person's friends to do it. And certainly as the Prime Minister, this is the most important diplomatic role, the top diplomatic role that we have, Ambassador to Washington. The Prime Minister not talking, never once interviewing the candidate for that job. That is a dereliction of duty, isn't it?
I think it's an extraordinary set of circumstances, particularly given that, anybody would know. The dogs in the street knew that Peter Mandelson was going to be a very controversial appointment because he'd resigned twice from the cabinet under Tony Blair. He'd had an awful lot of circumstances in his personal, the mixture between his personal and his professional life, which had caused great difficulties and great scandals in the past. So he came with a lot of baggage. He may have come with some talents which recommended him for the job. That may be true. I mean, I think he's clearly not a man without ability, but he is deeply controversial. And, he has crossed the ethical line on a number of occasions. So you need to make doubly sure, not only that you vet the appointment incredibly closely, but you are seen to vet it incredibly closely, that you've done everything you could possibly do to make sure there's a whiff of scandal about it. And Starmer seems to have done exactly the opposite of that, which is ask a few questions, maybe have a WhatsApp chat, but basically stand back and let someone else do it. And the someone else appears to have been, two fairly good friends of Peter Mandelson who are hardly going to come back with a damning verdict on his suitability. So a catastrophic set of misjudgments.
Yes, and as a former Commons clerk, you'll probably understand all of this, but Starmer now faces being dragged into a sleaze probe because the Tories, quite rightly, are asking the ethics watchdog, the parliamentary ethics watchdog, to investigate whether or not the Prime Minister flat out lied to the House of Commons. And it looks to me as if he did. So he could be in trouble there. What are your feelings about that?
I think, the House of Commons authorities and particularly the Committee of Privileges need to look possibly very carefully at what the Prime Minister said and whether it's consistent with the truth in a very, very technical sense, which it may be, because Starmer's a lawyer, it's not impossible. But I think there's nobody on this planet who can have heard what the Prime Minister said and reconcile that with what actually happened in any meaningful sense.
Yeah, exactly right.
The other issue is with the Prime Minister's independent advisor on ministerial standards. Now, he can initiate inquiries without the Prime Minister's say-so. That's something that was introduced under Starmer. The problem is that any ultimate sanction is decided by the Prime Minister, and I assume that unless things get even worse than they are, Keir Starmer's not going to recommend his own sacking. So I think that's a bit of a dead end. I mean, this may all get swept up in wider concerns about Starmer's leadership. There are so many issues piling up on him. His popularity is now so low. I mean, it's at levels which only Liz Truss.
Previously unplumbed depths, absolutely. But also, we got these 147 pages of what they're now calling the Mandelson files released a couple of days ago. And even what we did get was very shocking. It revealed the true extent of how much Starmer knew about Mandelson's continued friendship with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein, and he knew everything and yet gave him this job, which in itself is just astonishing, to be honest with you. But 147 pages, we gather there may be as many as 100,000 communications. So all we got was what you might call, I would say edited highlights, but it may well more likely be edited lowlights. We didn't get any of the Prime Minister's comments, which are, of course, always goes on top of the file, exactly what he wants, when he wants Mandelson to go there, et cetera, et cetera. That wasn't there. And even more significantly, in everything we saw the other day did not contain the name of Morgan McSweeney, who was central to Mandelson's appointment, and neither was Matthew Doyle in there either. So it looks very much as if what we got to see was very carefully edited to make sure we didn't see too much.
I mean, that may be the case. The problem for Keir Starmer is that it's already enough to be a very, very serious...
Yeah, I agree with that, yeah.
I think there are two problems. I think one problem is that what looks to have happened in a lot of the discussions around Mandelson's appointment is an increasing move to take stuff off books and sort of off the sort of, you know, when people say in a meeting, oh, can we deal with this offline? I think that's happening more and more in WhatsApp, private conversations, and these things have to be minuted. But I think the other consideration is that this is a problem which was entirely of Sir Keir Starmer's making. There was already a candidate to replace Dame Karen Pierce as ambassador in Washington. So Tim Barrow had been chosen by Rishi Sunak, he was going to go out and be ambassador, very eminent diplomat. He'd done most of the big jobs in the Foreign Office. He'd been ambassador for Russia, ambassador in Ukraine. Sir Keir Starmer took the positive decision that he didn't want to send a career diplomat out, send a political appointment, and that political appointment was going to be Peter Mandelson. So this is a storm which Sir Keir Starmer chose to create. He raised it from nowhere. So I think, given that everybody knows how controversial a figure Peter Mandelson is, everything points to not only lack of judgment, though I think Keir Starmer's been guilty of that for a long time, but also a complete inability to understand how politics works. The Prime Minister seems to think that if he thinks something's a good idea, other reasonable people will also do that.
You're so right. This is what, if nothing, people are going, why did he ignore this avalanche of advice from the security service, intelligence services, political advisors, even Mandelson's old mate, Jonathan Powell, said, you know, this will cause you reputational damage. He was told, if you make this appointment, it'll come back to haunt you. Don't do it. And yet he did it. And no one can quite work out why. The only explanation is a kind of almost, you know, astronomical arrogance that he sensed it was a good idea and he wasn't going to listen to anyone. But I think there's a lot still to come out, Elliot, and let's talk about this in the future. Good to meet you, good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Elliot Wilson there, writer, former House of Commons clerk. There is a lot more to come out about this. I mean, it's bad, as Elliot just said, it's really bad already. Really bad. Those 147 pages, absolutely catastrophic for Keir Starmer, and yet we know they were edited, they were censored, they were redacted so that we didn't see the worst of it. I mean, the mind boggles, doesn't it? 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Straits of Hormuz, which used to be responsible for 20% of the world's oil passing through it. 200 million barrels a day. Essential to keeping petrol prices low, prices all over the world, particularly here. But because Iran has effectively blockaded the Strait of Hormuz, it's like a 25-mile channel of sea that goes between Iran and Arabia kind of thing. Because of that, only a trickle is getting through, and the effect on the world economy could be catastrophic. Donald Trump says he's going to open it up, but can he? We'll talk about that next.
you think Donald Trump has a plan post-war?
A couple of weeks ago, when he started this off, he made a speech saying help would be on the way for the people. There was going to be regime change.
He appointed Mandelson against advice. We know this to be true. If this was a Conservative Prime Minister, the wider left would be absolutely screaming for his resignation.
Government's announced this afternoon, we're setting up a people's panel to work out exactly how you want us to roll out these digital IDs. We don't want them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
By the way, later in the show from 6:30 until 7 o'clock, we're going to be joined by Reform UK's Mayor of Greater Manchester, Dame Andrea Jenkins. She's going to be taking your calls. We call it Dial a Dame. I used to do it in my evening show. Dial a Dame. 0344 499 1000. Get your calls in any time you like. If you want to phone up now or before Andrea comes on, we'll save up your phone call and put you through when she's here. Anything you want to ask, she's here to help. So dial a Dame Andrea Jenkins from 6:30 until 7 p.m. 0344 499 1000. Now, let's go straight over to my next guest because we need to talk about the Strait of Hormuz. Angie Wong, Republican strategist. Nice having you on the show again, Angie.
Thanks, Kevin, for having me.
Always a pleasure. Now, we've got a problem, I think, with the Strait of Hormuz. That is a 25-mile stretch of sea, a little channel sort of between Iran and Arabia, where 20% of the world's oil passes through in cargo ships. Because of the war and because Iran seems to be attacking any ship that goes anywhere near it and effectively blockading it at the moment, the normal 200 million barrels of oil that go through that channel every day has slowed down to a trickle. Now, unless something is done to open up that channel, pretty damn soon, all over the world, petrol prices or gas prices, as you say in your great country, are going to rocket. I mean, astronomically. We've got a problem here, haven't we?
Yeah, and we're already seeing it at the pumps. Every time I leave my home, I check out the gas prices, and it's ticked up 10 cents every single day since this war has started. Look, the war has been centralized now at the Straits of Hormuz. Remember, early on when the strikes first started happening, it wasn't Tehran that closed down the straits. It was actually the shipping insurers, a lot of them based out of England. And Trump said, look, we will be the U.S. Government will be the reinsurers up to $20 billion. We're going to be the Lloyds of London, essentially, is what he was saying. He was getting in the insurance game. That still did not move ships. It did not give the confidence from the U.S. all the way to Singapore to move ships because their cargo could be blown up, right, by whichever military want to blow them up. And there's so much fog of war right now. Now, Tehran recently is allowing their own ships to go through. And that's why the war now has been centralized on these islands. The U.S. Navy is getting involved. Trump is getting involved. That it all comes down to whether or not passage can be can move in the next few days because the world is nervous.
Yeah, at the moment, unless that channel is unblocked and shipping can go through, we're on course. People talk about the price of oil. There's this kind of holy rancid grail of $100 a barrel. Unless that Hormuz Strait is unblocked soon, we'll be talking $200 a barrel, and that will be catastrophic on the entire world economy. So let's hope that President Trump and the great military forces of America can open up that channel. But the word is that could be difficult. But we wish the States and, of course, Israel the best in that endeavour. In fact, we beg it to succeed. But what's the feeling in America? Because, let's not, you're a fan of Donald Trump. I am too, but I'm not sure about what's going on now. And I know he's lost a lot of MAGA support. This was the guy, no foreign wars, America first. And here he is involved in a war. He keeps saying he's won it, but he hasn't. Are you worried, Angie?
I am not worried. Americans just hang tight. The rest of the world should hang tight as well. We just released 172 million barrels of reserved oil. Remember, back in the Obama and Biden days, crude oil was at 130 per barrel, right? So we are still far below from that. This is going to be temporary. Now, the reason why I'm saying, well, I know. Well, there's, and this may be where Trump miscalculated a little bit, because he's not going to let oil be very, very high, especially because he has a big midterm election come November. So he's going to try to cap this, at least phase one of this strike, very, very soon, because he knows everyone from Japan to Italy, they're all screaming like, we need to get our petrol going, because those countries are struggling. Whereas the U.S., well, we have Venezuelan oil. Remember that operation?
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So we're okay for now, but Americans, we have a very short window to close this up. We're hoping, everyone strap in for a month or two. I don't believe that this is going to get past this summer because, well, summer travels and people like to go in their cars here.
Indeed, and they also, the American politics, all American politicians know that you must keep the price of gas and beer down, keep it low. That's why I went to live there.
I didn't know that last part.
Yeah, I lived in LA for 10 years. I always loved the price of petrol or gas in particular, also beer. But the MAGA base, they're not thrilled by this endeavour, are they?
Right now Americans are fully behind our president. We are watching our oil prices, but the other number we're watching is the body count. We do not want to see any more U.S. soldiers coming back in body bags. So as long as that number is relatively low, we're in support of our president, because what is he doing? He's protecting us from a potential nuclear strike.
Angie, I think that it's a great thing to take out that horrendous regime in Iran. It's just that these things are never easy, and we, of course, wish President Trump and your great country and Israel all the best in that endeavour. I just wish we could help you more, but we've got a terrible Prime Minister. What can I say? Angie, great to talk to you. Thank you very much. Angie Wong there, Republican strategist. Next up.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, let's spend the next 20 minutes or so in the excellent company of the author of Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself, and also a brilliant columnist as well, Jake Wallace-Simons. Welcome, Jake.
Hello, good evening.
Now, the story I'm covering today, on Sunday, the police... they seem to be sort of patting themselves on the back because they've been very, very tough with these people who want to have a demonstration to support our enemies, the Iranians and the Ayatollahs. They won't let them go on a march, but they will let them have a bloody great rally in the middle of London in Whitehall outside the Home Office. So that is being allowed. Until about an hour ago, a Boy Scouts St George's Day parade in East London, in Romford, was banned because the police said, oh, we can't guarantee anybody's safety. They said to these Boy Scouts, well, we'll send a couple of coppers if you give us £9,000. The Boy Scouts, of course, couldn't afford that. So this Boy Scouts St George's Day parade was banned by the police, who were, meanwhile, allowing Sunday's gathering, the Al-Quds demonstration, pro-Iran, pro-Ayatollah. I'll bet you, Jake, that those pro-Iranian demonstrators will not have to pay the police any money. Now, what's happened is I had the local MP from Romford, Andrew Rossendale, in the studio, and he came in with the excellent news that a fine local businessman heard about this and said, I'll give you the £9,000 for the coppers. So just about, no thanks to the police, this Boy Scouts St George's parade will go ahead. But until a couple of hours ago, this was modern Britain. You can have a massive, great demonstration to say hooray for the Ayatollah, hooray for that terrorist hellhole, tyrannical, murderous regime, Iran. But Boy Scouts can't have a St George's Day parade. What is going wrong in this country?
Well, there's so much to be said about this story. I mean, I think in terms of the scout group that was supposed to be parading for St George's Day, obviously that's a much softer target for our health and safety rules than some very ideologically zealous Islamists who are backing the Ayatollah's regime and who are willing to use our legal system to advance their cause. You know, once Shabana Mahmood had banned that moving protest, and it then went back to being a static one. This organisation that's running this, staging this march, threatened to sue the government. And it was interesting to me that William Shawcross's Prevent review, if you remember a few years ago, labelled that particular organisation as being linked to the Iranian regime and having very unpleasant and suspect connections to potential Islamists as well. And so these people are playing us. That's the impression that I'm getting. They know our Achilles heel, which is the rule of law, fairness and tolerance, and they're using it to their advantage through the courts if need be to try to impose their agenda on the rest of us. It's totally shameless. The Boy Scouts, meanwhile, they're just ordinary people behaving by the rules, wanting to do a march out of pride for their country, and they're feeling the full force of the administrative technocratic state, I suppose, which in the name of health and safety seems to be squeezing every last drop of fun out of society. You know, I think that the state is far too involved in these things. I mean, surely Boy Scouts can be trusted to have a nice parade down the middle of the street without having to be policed by officers. The local community should be able to look out for them and make sure that it all goes well. If there's a problem, we can solve it. If there's an emergency, we can call the police. But I can't see any reason why it needs to be wrapped up in red tape to the extent that it is. So this state of affairs in modern Britain is used by the Islamists and ends up squashing the natural desires of the rest of us to go about our lives in peace.
Yeah, and I think that I'm certain that when these Al-Qaeda people, you remember the leader, of course, has been filmed shouting "death to the IDF" and all that. I mean, these are sort of basically traitors. These are supporters of our enemy, supporters of that murderous, tyrannical regime in Iran. I bet you when the police, when they said, "All right, okay, so you can't march, but you can have a static protest, a static demonstration," I bet the police didn't say, "But it's going to cost you £25,000 or £50,000. But they did say to the Boy Scouts £9,000. My fear is this is just modern Britain at work again. Oh, we don't like the idea of the St George's Cross. We don't like the idea of St George's. We don't like the idea of Winston Churchill on our banknotes. Oh, you want to have a demonstration in favour of a Muslim nation? Well, in that case, of course. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think it does. It does have a flavour of that. But I mean, the one question that I can't quite work out is why is a static protest any less bad than a march?
Exactly what I've been saying, Jay.
The problem is that there are these Islamists who support the worst regime on earth, without doubt, who massacred 30,000 people in 2 days for the first time since the Second World War. I think that scale of massacre has taken place over such a short time. These people who carry out terrorism or seek to carry out terrorism on our shores, who work against our interests, who are attacking our servicemen overseas as we speak. Why should they be allowed to have any demonstration whatsoever, whether they're moving or whether they're static? I don't get it. Why should they be allowed to have an office in London? Why should they be allowed to have the freedom of assembly in order to subvert our way of life and our values and take the mick? It's just gone too far. They need to be banned, deported, repressed. We must not tolerate these Islamists. Otherwise, we'll only find that we have very little to protect before they come for all of us.
Yeah, this static demonstration, this new, it's sort of new buzzword. It's a static protest. Oh, it's static. It's just a euphemism. It's as if, oh, this isn't a real demonstration. It's static. I mean,
yeah.
Okay, there is a difference, but not a massive difference. You know.
It's like saying, Hitler's main fault was that he was allowed to march through Berlin. If he'd just stood at the Reichstag and made his speeches, that would have been fine. But a procession through Berlin, that was beyond the pale. I mean, the problem is that it's Hitler. That's the problem. And the Nazis, their heirs now are the Islamists who have inherited their ideology, mixed it with extremist versions of Islam, and are trying to impose it on the rest of us by increments. We need to wise up and get real and stop these people before they stop us. Yeah,
I'm glad you spotted that. People go. Somebody actually said to me a couple of hours ago, don't worry, it's static. You know, where did this come from, and what in the end is the difference? We are allowing, the police and our authorities are allowing our enemies to stage a demonstration in the middle of London. It's a bit like during the Second World War, having a rally to support Adolf Hitler and the Holocaust. You know, it's ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Exactly right.
We shouldn't be allowing it. Now, can we move on to the actual to the conflict itself? Of course, we wish America and Israel all the best in that endeavour. I have no problem with trying to end that horrendous regime, and I think the timing of it may well be that Iran wasn't very long away from having nuclear weapons. John Bolton, no less, who is not on Donald Trump's Christmas card list, said the other day he thought that they may have been within 3 days of having a nuclear weapon. So I have no problem at all with attacking Iran. I think the idea of regime change may prove to be a lot more difficult than Trump ever imagined, and I think we've got problems in the Strait of Hormuz, but these things happen in war, so we wish Israel and America all the best. Meanwhile, though, Jake, right at the outset, we know 2 missiles were fired from Tehran, might have been Hezbollah, but still Iranian missiles at our airbase in Cuba. One of them hit a runway.
In Cyprus. Yep.
Cuba. Cyprus. That's a very long range. Cyprus. One of them hit a runway. So that they were enemy missiles fired at British sovereign territory. And now, right now, as we speak, we have special forces, we have soldiers, British soldiers in northern Iraq at a British airbase are defending. They are fighting for their lives. They are under a massive drone attack, have been for many hours now. So a British military base is under severe attack from an enemy, Iran, and Keir Starmer's response is we need to de-escalate. Are we now a nation that allows enemies to drop bombs on us and we do nothing about it?
I'm afraid that's a question to which the answer is yes. The base actually, I mean, point of fact, is actually an American air base which has British troops on it in Erbil in Iraq, in the Kurdistan area, but that's neither here nor there. Our boys are shooting drones out of the sky at a rate of knots, according to John Healey, the Defence Secretary. But I think that the attack on the base in Cyprus was more serious because it actually landed and came very close to killing some people. It didn't, but we were attacked. And what was our response? To do nothing, frankly. And the thing is that if I was Vladimir Putin, watching very carefully, which are the soft targets amongst my enemies, I would think that Britain would be top of the list, because I can see that Hezbollah will attack British soil. It's British soil on Cyprus airbase. And Britain did not give any response. What any normal country would have done, send a couple of aircraft into the skies. The Israelis would help us access Lebanon, bomb some Hezbollah targets so they feel the pain of messing with Britain. That's the only way that throughout the centuries, every major power has reacted to challenges to its authority, because the effects of not doing that is that you store up a much bigger problem for the future, which is that Putin or somebody else will see that we're a soft touch and plot a much bigger attack in the future. The longer you delay action, the bigger the attack will be when it comes. That's what the Israelis have learned from October the 7th. That's why they're being so aggressive in repressing any threats to their country. And we need to take a leaf out of their book, because we're being caught napping all the time, frankly. And we need to start to remember what a great power we used to be and what's required to deter and defeat our enemies.
Yeah, I mean, as a sovereign nation, Great Britain, for Christ's sake, I mean, we can't allow our enemies to bomb us, to attack us, and do nothing about it. And yet Starmer seems to think that that is a perfectly plausible response. Just say, it's time to de-escalate. No, it's time to tell our enemies, you cannot bomb us. If you bomb us, you're going to know about it. And yet we're just letting them do it. As I say, that we have British soldiers right now who are under such serious attack that John Healey said they ran out of those air defence missiles to blow the incoming drone missiles out of the sky. They've run out. They've had to be resupplied. We have British soldiers in northern Iraq who are fighting for their lives, and we've got a Prime Minister and indeed a cabinet who said, it's time to de-escalate. I mean, it's just extraordinary, isn't it?
I think some of it's about the language. I mean, in Churchill's day, he would talk of victory, of course. He would talk of the enemy, and he would talk of not surrendering. Whereas the language that our Prime Minister uses today is about de-escalation, is about international law, and is about fairness and all those things. I think we need to find the real meaning of words. We need to reinstall the meaning of the English language, and to begin to remember that sometimes when you have an enemy, you have to label them an enemy. When you have an enemy that is meaning you harm and seeking to destroy you, you must defend yourself. You cannot appease, to use that other wartime word. You cannot appease the enemy. Out with nicism, this new plague that seems to be the guiding principle of our government these days, and in with something proper, which is deter, defeat, destroy, be a strong ally to our friends and an enemy to our enemies, and destroy them to secure our way of life and advance our interests. That's what we need to do.
You've just listed everything that Starmer's Britain is not. Let's talk about Starmer before you go, Jake. Good to have you on the show, as always. Starmer, today we learned, this Mandelson saga gets worse and worse and worse. A particularly sordid picture has emerged today. I don't know if you've seen it, of Mandelson, Prince Andrew, and
the bathrobes.
In all their bathrobes. All these pictures of Mandelson, he's always in a bathrobe. When he went on these holidays with his billionaire pedo pal, did he pack any clothes, do you think, or was it always bathrobes? But anyway, sordid picture, beside the point really, but just to underline how disgusting this saga is. We learned today, after the Prime Minister stood in the House of Commons and assured the representatives of the people, that the full vetting process had been properly followed before he appointed Peter Mandelson to the key position of our ambassador to the United States of America. We learned today that's just not true, and he didn't even speak to Mandelson before he got the job. He left the vetting, if you like, the personal vetting, to two of Mandelson's mates, Morgan McSweeney and Matthew Doyle. Well, you don't get friends to vet people, but the fact that the Prime Minister, before making this very, very key appointment, the top diplomatic role in all of the diplomatic corps, didn't even speak to Mandelson. That's just an egregious dereliction of duty, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it makes me cast my mind back to Keir Starmer's criticism of Boris Johnson's administration during the general election campaign, the last one just round. Boris Johnson was accused of being unserious, of being incompetent, of being corrupt, of partying while the country suffered. And it just seems to me as if all of those charges could be much more fairly levelled against the current government, against Keir Starmer and his cronies. I mean, talk about cronyism. This Mandelson fiasco could not smack of more cronyism. Talk about corruption. What about all of Keir Starmer's clothes and spectacles and sports tickets from Lord Ali, who then got a security pass to Downing Street? I mean, the list goes on of ways in which this Starmer government is not just incompetent, but also, it seems to me, to be really quite immoral in a way that even the Boris Johnson administration would never have dreamt of. And so, we were promised grown-up politics. The grown-ups are back in charge. Would tread lightly on your lives. Do you remember that vow that Keir Starmer made after being elected, which I can barely repeat without puking? I mean, this government has not just been a disappointment, it's been a rebuke to all of those people who just before the last election said to themselves, I'm going to give the other lot a go because how much worse could it get? Well, now we're finding out. Thanks very much.
It's just, I mean, he's going sooner or later, maybe May, but I think after the Mandelson affair, and we clearly haven't learnt all that much of what really went on, because we've got 147 pages 2 days ago from what's now called the Mandelson files, and we're hearing there are 100,000, more than 100,000 communications, so a lot of it we didn't get to know. If we get to know all of that, I think it'll only get worse. And I'll just leave you with one thought. I mean, the uselessness, the hopelessness of this man Starmer and the idiots who surround him. When he made his excuses yesterday in Belfast about, I did know about the extent of Mandelson's friendship with the paedophile, the child sex abuser, Jeffrey Epstein, and this of course was a mistake, and I apologise. He was in this room surrounded by children, there's little kids, and he's talking about paedophiles and child sex abuse. They can't even get that sort of thing right. It really is. It's almost tragic to behold, but never tragic to behold you, Jake. Thank you so much. Brilliant to have you on the show. Jake Wallace-Simons there, author and columnist. We've had a response from Havering Council. They're the ones, to be fair to Havering Council, it wasn't so much them banning the march. It was that I'm talking about the Boy Scouts St George's Day march. It was that march couldn't happen because the police said, well, we can't police it unless you pay us. I don't know why that is. But that's what they said. And of course the Boy Scouts couldn't afford 9,000 quid. We've heard from the local MP, Andrew Rossendale, who's kind enough to come in the studio today, that at the 11th hour, brilliantly, a local businessman called Dean Floyd has stepped in and said, yeah, here's £9,000. So now the police will police the Boy Scouts parade. So this is from Havering Council. Securing the future of Scouts St George's Day Parade as if they did it. Why didn't the council give them 9 grand? Why didn't the council pay for it? Following a meeting today of Havering, this is today, of Havering Council, the Metropolitan... Start that again. Following a meeting today of Havering Council, the Metropolitan Police and Romford District Scouts, the partners are pleased to confirm the long-standing and much-valued Scouts St George's Day Parade in Collier Row will take place this year. Working together, the council, police and scouts have updated plans, which means there are no expensive costs required for outside organisations to manage the event. Well, we know what happened, don't we? A local businessman, out of the goodness of his heart, said, I will pay for the police. Why did the police demand £9,000 to police a Boy Scout St George's Day parade? As I say, in Whitehall, he's pointing the wrong way. It's that way. That's why he's Whitehall. In Whitehall on Sunday, I guarantee you those traitors, those supporters of Iran and the Ayatollah, who have been allowed to have their rally, incredibly, I guarantee they won't be charged. I guarantee the police didn't say, right, you can only have this if you give us 50 grand. I guarantee you. What's going on? 0344 499 1000. Let me just quickly give you the competition time, shall I? We're giving you the chance to win 2 hospitality tickets to the British Grand Prix on the Sunday, the 5th of July, with full racing green trackside experience. This is the ultimate setup for race day. You'll get exclusive grandstand seats at the Loop and Village Corners, plus inner track access to watch the drivers arriving at the paddock, and access to the hospitality shuttle bus for easy on-site transport, racing simulators and live music between sessions, all-day street food and an open bar. Listen up to find out how you could be in with a chance to win.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 20th of March 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
It's the perfect Silverstone race day experience for any F1 fan, so don't miss out. Coming up after the break, I'm going to be joined by political commentator Benedict Spence, because, you know, those migrants that come across the channel all the time on illegal boats. Well, there are serious fears that many of Tehran's Revolutionary Guard, the epicentre of that terrorist hellhole, will be sneaking in to the UK on the small boats that bring the migrants in across the channel. That's good, isn't it? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Do you think Donald Trump has a plan post-war?
A couple of weeks ago, when he started this off, he made a speech saying help would be on the way for the people. There was going to be regime change.
He appointed Mandelson against advice. We know this to be true. If this was a Conservative Prime Minister, the wider left would be absolutely screaming for his resignation.
Government's announced this afternoon, we're setting up a people's panel to work out exactly how you want us to roll out these digital IDs. We don't want them.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
So, as I was just saying, literally as this show has unfolded, at the start of the show, this St George's Day parade by the Boy Scouts was banned. Andrew Rossendale, local MP, comes in and says, brilliant, got great news. A local businessman has agreed to pay the police £9,000. Why do they need that money? Why do they need £9,000? It's their job to monitor something like a Boy Scouts parade. But anyway, that was the demand. And so a local businessman said, I'll pay it. So by the skin of its teeth, no thanks to the police. This is going to happen. This was the Havering Council now boasting away, saying, following a meeting, yes, we're brilliant. We're pleased to announce it will take place this year. Before this meeting, which happened today, this was it. This was the council response. It said, due to public safety concerns, the council cannot endorse an event that involves participants walking in the road without an appropriate traffic management plan and a valid traffic management order in place. So that was Havering's council's response until Dean Floyd, local businessman, came in and agreed to pay for the police so the Boy Scouts can have their St George's Day parade. What is this council thinking of? What are the police thinking of? Seriously. Unbelievable. I mean, let me know. I mean, this is modern Britain. Are those Iranian... I keep pointing that way. It's that way. Over there in Whitehall, outside the Home Office on Sunday, this Al-Quds demonstration led by some guy who's been filmed shouting, death, death to the IDF. These enemies of ours... did the police say to them, I'm sorry, you can't have this demonstration unless you give us, well, it would be a lot more than 9,000, wouldn't it? Say 20, 30, 50,000 pounds. Did they try and charge them? Or is it only people who want to celebrate patriotism, who want to pay homage to their country? Is that the only kind of people that the police charge money to? 03444991000. I think it's disgusting, frankly. Folks, you let me know what you think. Right, let's go over to Benedict Spence, political commentator. Welcome, Benedict.
Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
I'm good. This is disconcerting. We already know that within days of the war erupting in the Middle East, I mean, literally within about 5 days, there were reported to be dozens of Iranians had arrived on the North French beaches, hoping to get a berth on one of the small boats, like all the rest of the migrants. So they'd fled their war-torn country, made it across Europe, and were already around Calais, waiting to cross the channel to the promised land, as in the UK. Well, there are now serious fears that members of the Revolutionary Guard, you know, the sort of stormtroopers, the cross between the Nazi Gestapo SS and the KGB, who rule Iran with in a reign of terror. I mean, these are murderous, torturous fiends. Well, the word is that many hundreds of these people, there are altogether, by the way, about 130,000, are making their way, or some of them have made their way to Calais. And this is not Revolutionary Guard members saying, right, I'm out of here because of the war. They're still members of the Revolutionary Guard, and they're making their way to Britain via the migrant crossing route in order to do the work of the Ayatollah here. And you know what that means, terrorism. So the IRGC could be set, or may already be, crossing the channel in small boats with the other migrants. That's pretty worrying.
I suspect that there are already a great deal of them in this country because Iranians have been one of the largest groups of people using those illegal crossings in the Channel for some time now. And I mean, we've had this over the last decade with members or former members of Islamic State as, their caliphate collapsed across Iraq and Syria, many of them making their way across Europe, and there being plentiful suggestions that they use this crossing as well. This is one of the issues that happens when you get massive unrest in the Middle East, which is that organizations, regimes will use Europe's open borders against it. And we, despite the fact that we've left the European Union, somehow ostensibly we're still part of this truly insane situation where we simply do not police our border and we pick people up in the Channel and don't put them straight back where they came from. As we said, this is probably not going to be the last time that this sort of thing happens. If there is any sort of exodus of people from Gaza, for instance, almost certainly members of Hamas will use these routes to get to the United Kingdom. One of the potential offshoots of the war in Iran and the massive uptick in the cost of fertilizer and therefore food that's coming down the road will mean that other Middle Eastern countries, particularly Egypt, are going to face a huge amount of instability and unrest. There are plenty of extremists there. We all know about Alaa Abdel Fattah, of course, member of the Muslim Brotherhood, was brought to this country. Well, there are plenty more where he came from. They'll be coming straight towards us and France and Germany as well. But this is what happens when you have unrest in the Middle East. This is not an unknown phenomenon. And the fact of the matter is, we're still talking about the issues around policing in the Channel. This has been a problem since, 2017, 2018? Our government still hasn't got to grips with it, despite it being a core promise of Keir Starmer at the last election. Where is the proof that there has been any kind of progress, even before this particularly dangerous conflict broke out?
Yeah. Last year, 4,400 Iranians were among the 45,000 or so migrants who crossed the Channel illegally in small boats and broke into our country, of course, to be welcomed with the usual treats of a free hotel and free benefits, 50 quid a week, free doctors, dentists, lawyers, etc. So 4,400. But the ones, we're told, making their way here now, many of them apparently already in northern France, maybe of a more sinister variety than the ones we saw last year, that the word is that the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, are sort of undercover, making their way, pretending, disguised as normal migrants, and they'll get into the country because, let's face it, Iran will be planning the next phase of its attrition against the West. They're going to run out of missiles at some point, but the next phase of their attrition will be terrorism in countries like Britain.
Oh, absolutely. There'll be attacks. I mean, one of the things that's interesting is we have seen an uptick in incidents across many Western countries, attacks on synagogues and Jewish communities, but also listeners may have noticed that there have been an uptick in random knife attacks against people. And this is always the problem, is that you have the twofold thing. You have the organized cells and you have the lone wolves that are inspired by the ideology. Now, it's obviously in the interests of security forces to dampen down these sorts of things. It must be said, actually, in the UK, our security services, when it comes to tackling terrorists of this nature, they are very good. But all it takes is for one to get through, and we all know that occasionally they do get through, to wreak awful havoc against the general public. And the key thing is, okay, yes, our security services are very good at what they do, but they shouldn't have to be dealing with this amount, the sheer volume of threats. There shouldn't be this number of people coming from these parts of the world in this country, given that they will almost certainly be known in some cases to the authorities. And it also just makes it that bit more insane that the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, has still not been prescribed as a terrorist organization by the UK. I mean, what's up with that?
Well, exactly. It's absolutely terrifying. And as you say, we're still not stopping these people at all. And they say, you talk about the potential exodus from Iran. They're saying that as many as 9 million Iranians are, if they can possibly do so, planning or plotting to escape their war-torn country. 9 million. We've seen this sort of thing before, so we may soon see surging across Europe a sort of tidal wave of Iranian migrants, and among them the Revolutionary Guard. It doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
It doesn't, and we all know what will happen is that they'll arrive in Eastern Europe or Southern Europe, in Italy or wherever it is, and they'll be chivied along straight towards France and towards Germany and towards us, because we are the ones that will end up taking the brunt of all of this. And we are talking huge numbers, and we're not talking women and children. That's always what we're told, is that it's innocent women and children or doctors and engineers. It's not going to be that. It's going to be young men. And what I would like to know is, at what point do we turn around to migrants from a Middle Eastern country that's sort of been destabilized by war and say to them, well, look, we're happy to take your women and children as refugees, but there is a quid pro quo that comes with that. Ukraine is the best example. Millions of men remained behind in Ukraine. They didn't flee to fight for their country, whilst women and children left as refugees. Why is that standard not applied to all of these other countries around the world? Why is it always young men that get set from them, and then almost as an afterthought it's we'll send for the women and children later, but we're here, and that's the important thing.
Benedict, it's all very depressing but very good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Benedict Spence there, political commentator. How many of Tehran's Revolutionary Guard will be sneaking into the UK on small boats? They fear many, a lot. And as for just ordinary Iranians, they are going to make up a massive proportion of the migrants that will inevitably cross the channel illegally in this year's invasion. 45,000 last year. The government admitting it's likely to be a higher number this year. Where are the deterrents? I thought Kyrgyzstan was going to solve this crisis. Smash the boats, smash the gangs. Remember that? Smash the gangs, one in, one out. Whatever happened to that? We don't have any deterrents at all. So if terrorists want to get into this country, and we're hearing that the members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps will be among these, basically spies getting into the country to cause terrorism, they'll be able to do it easily because we have no deterrence and we just let them in. Your thoughts? 0344 499 1000. We'll take calls next. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I've got a couple of voice notes and then we'll go to the phones. First of all, here is Peter on the Scout Parade, the St George's Day Scout Parade we've been talking about.
Good afternoon, Kevin. I can't believe my ears with this Boy Scout thing. Yet that disgusting sit-down march demonstration for this Iranian regime is allowed to go on. Well, it just proves now two-tier policing, doesn't it? If they can't even look after our children, right, Boy Scouts, but then again, they can't look after our children anyway, which has been shown in the places where all the rape gangs are around. The police do absolutely nothing. This has to stop. This is Great Britain bending over backwards for minorities. Now needs to stop in this country, stopping Boy Scouts marching on St George's Day. I've never heard of anything so absurd. I think they should march anyway, right? Patriots will go up there and protect them. They don't need the police. If the police are not prepared to step in, it's time other people did.
Yeah, Peter, a really good point about this is the epicenter, isn't it, of two-tier policing. They're perfectly prepared to allow our enemies, Iranian Ayatollah supporters, fans of that tyrannical, murderous regime, to have a demonstration on Sunday, but they're not prepared to allow Boy Scouts to celebrate St George's Day. We've got Havering Council, the local council, now boasting, sort of saying, yes, it's brilliant. Following a meeting, we can please confirm that the long-standing, much-valued Scout St George's Day will now go ahead. Yeah, that's not because of the council. It's not because of the police. It's because a big-hearted local businessman called Dean Floyd said, I'll pay the £9,000 that the cops are demanding. Until then, the council, their attitude was this. Due to public safety concerns, the council cannot endorse an event that involves participants walking in the road without an appropriate traffic management plan and a valid traffic management order in place. So don't start taking credit for what Dean Floyd enabled to happen, Havering Council, or the cops, and to the Met Police. How much are you charging those Iranian demonstrators on Sunday? How much are they going to have to pay for you to police that? Or do you do that for free? You do, don't you? You don't charge them a penny, and yet you charge Boy Scouts £9,000 to march through the streets on a parade to celebrate England's National Day, St George's Day. Sort yourselves out. Sort yourselves out. 03444991000. Here's Zoe on Starmer being useless. Could be a long one, this.
Hi, Kevin. Zoe from Staffordshire Moorland here. How many months and months and months ago was it that little weasel, that barefaced liar, Starmer, stood up and said, we are on a war footing? At that point, I think it was to do with Russia and Ukraine months ago. So why the hell has boats been stuck, not primed? Just disgraceful. And these Mandelson papers, the guy is an utter disgrace. He lied to Parliament. He's lied to us, the people. When is enough going to be enough?
Well said, Zoe. Really good voice. That couldn't mean I've got no truck with a single word you said. Agree with everything you said. Well done. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to John in Wiltshire. Hi, John.
Hey. Hi, Kev. How you doing? Good evening.
I'm all right. Yeah, what would you like to say, mate?
I got back from Dubai last week, but I spoke to Ian about that.
Oh, yeah.
Let's stow that.
Yeah.
This is the unholy trilogy of the government, the institution, and the military.
Yeah.
So, I don't know where to start. I would like to say that Philip, Jake, and Benedict are great orators. I'll never be like that. The government is in shambles.
It is. I mean, you really talk about the military. I was saying to Jake and indeed Philip Kisley at the start of the show that Iran has fired 2 missiles at a British sovereign military base in Cyprus. One of them hit the runway, one of them mercifully just missed. Even more mercifully, no one was hurt. But that was a British military airbase under attack from an enemy. Now, right now, as we speak, our soldiers, British soldiers, are fighting for their lives in northern Iraq being rained upon by Iranian missiles from Tehran,
Right. Okay.
and we as a nation, John, are not responding. I mean, what is going on?
Right, so I'm ex-Air Force, as you probably know, 19 years in the Air Force, 4 years and before that in the Royal Marines. I was in Akrotiri a lot. Military under pressure, but they've got woke leadership. They won't actually get a grip and get on with it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but as a military man, you know, you'd be expected to be called into combat at this stage, wouldn't you? You can't. You can't. As a nation, we're supposed to be a proud nation. You know, we stand up for ourselves. You bomb us, and you're going to know about it. We'll bomb you back, only worse. We will not allow our enemies to bomb us. And yet we have turned into, under Keir Starmer, a nation that allows an enemy to bomb us. And our response is, let's de-escalate. Let's try to de-escalate. That's it. It's pathetic.
Defo, I flew out of Lynham day after 9/11 and thinking, I'm not going to leave the Air Force anymore. We're getting into war. In fact, we did to war. And that's what you do. Back to 1982, within 36 hours, 40 ships sailed.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the Falklands. 4 days after... interestingly, John, so when those two missiles were fired at our Cyprus airbase, it's now a couple of weekends ago, that was the first time that British territory had come under military attack since the Falklands in 1982. Now, when Argentina started its ill-judged invasion of British sovereign territory, within 4 days, Margaret Thatcher had sent 40 ships, 2 aircraft carriers, 40 ships, a massive task force to the South Atlantic to get our territory back. And boy, did we do that. Now look at us. We just DS. You know, if that was Starmer, in 1982, the Argentinians have attacked the Falkland Islands, sovereign British territory. Could you ask the Argentinians to de-escalate, please? It's pathetic.
It's embarrassing.
Yes, that's the word.
Just completely unholy trilogy. I mean, I've been trying to figure this out all day. What is going on?
I don't know, mate. I just don't know. Words don't often fail me, but they do fail me on this issue. I just cannot get my head around what we have become as a nation under this ludicrous, incompetent, frankly, morally cowardice government. It's...
Well, Kev, there's more than one 45 class ship. And our Navy are pretty smart, to be honest. They work
we've only got 8. Got 8 ships. America's got nearly 300. We've got 8. And only one of them is making its way to Cyprus, and that took 8 days to get ready. You know,
it's too hot there.
There's nothing you can say in any way to exonerate what's happened. It's an absolute disgrace. John, with you all the way. I've got to go, though, but very good call. John in Wiltshire. Let's go to... actually, I'm going to play you something first. I've got a show on YouTube right now, talk show. It is Plank of the Week, of course. You can watch it right now. It's there anytime you like. Go to YouTube, go to Talk's channel, put Plank of the Week in Google, whatever, at the top of search on YouTube. You'll find it. It's there now. Here's a taster of the current edition on YouTube of Plank of the Week. Coming up on tonight's Plank of the Week.
25% of migrants use Britain as a cash machine.
Fury as Sir Winston Churchill is axed from banknotes.
And Keir Starmer is named the most unpopular Prime Minister ever.
It's time for Plank of the Week.
You can go and watch that right now, but I'm telling you not to. You've got to carry on watching this show, but it is available anytime you like, seriously. Let's go to break. After the break, it's time for Sunsport. All that's happening in the wonderful world of sport in the excellent company of the night sports editor of The Sun, Phil Cadden. That next.
Do you think Donald Trump has a plan post-war?
A couple of weeks ago, when he started this off, he made a speech saying help would be on the way for the people. There was going to be regime change.
He appointed Mandelson against advice. We know this to be true. If this was a Conservative Prime Minister, the wider left would be absolutely screaming for his resignation.
Government's announced this afternoon, we're setting up a people's panel to work out exactly how you want us to roll out these digital IDs. We don't want them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Night sports editor at The Sun, Phil Cadden, is in the studio. Welcome, Phil.
Hi, Kev.
Here's Igor Tudor talking about Tottenham Hotspur.
Big challenge to to change the things. So, like everything in a life, you can choose how to see the situation. So you can stay and cry, or you can fight. You can be the victim, or you can say, I can change something.
So, obviously he's talking about the dire straits of Spurs. They had a terrible night in the Champions League the other day, but more pressing for them is they're having a terrible time in the Premier League, likely to get, well, the way they're going, they could well get relegated. And he's telling his players, his demoralised players, you can either cry or fight. Yeah. Do you think this rallying cry will work?
Probably not. I think if you're a Tottenham fan, you've probably been crying for quite some time, especially on Tuesday night. I mean, they seem to come up with unique and new ways of losing matches, and
they're imaginative in that way.
You could have seen them losing 2 or 3 against Atletico Madrid, but not in the manner of which it turned out. I mean, and then you throw in the issue with the goalkeeper situation, dropping one. Then sub in Kinski after 17 minutes, having to go back to Vicario. Then they have the situation at the end of the game, they've already conceded 5, and then 2 of their players clash heads. Both have concussion. They're both ruled out for Sunday's game at Liverpool. I mean, it's been an absolute mess.
Yeah, it's a car crash, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And of course, we are now at that traditional point in Spurs' history where he does this for a number of teams. Where Harry Redknapp, I think he's about 80 now, isn't he? He's thrown his at 79. He's thrown his hat into the ring and say, "I'll help if needed." You know, you can laugh about it, but it might actually not be a bad idea because, you know, Harry, you know, for all his age, I mean, he's a charismatic figure and they might get a brilliant managerial bounce out of him. Might be an idea.
Well, I mean, I think the one thing probably holding Harry back has been Cheltenham. He's been down there. He's been down there all week.
Too busy.
I know he didn't win the Gold Cup today, but now that's over, is this now a potential scenario that they can get through the weekend? And they just need a lift. I mean, the whole team and club and fan base, they're on such a low at the moment. You just cannot see where they're going to win any of their last 8-9 games.
And Harry might give them that lift, you know, focal point, but you never know. I mean, Igor Tudor, I mean, that was quite good what he just said, but he ain't working out, let's be fair. Pep Guardiola, I think you take this with a bit of a pinch of salt, but it's the usual stuff they come out with at this time of the season. If Man City drop points at West Ham, our Premier League title race is over. Well, it wouldn't be, and it won't be, but I don't suppose Pep will be expecting to drop points at, I was about to say Upton Park, but the London Stadium.
And I wouldn't raise my hopes if I was a West Ham fan too much, because of the previous record. West Ham haven't won in the last 20 Premier League games against Man City. They've lost 17 and drawn 3. However, I would caveat that a little bit, that City didn't look great in the week at Real Madrid. They're obviously coming back from Spain on a low, and West Ham have picked up in the last few weeks. Out of all the teams in the sort of relegation fight.
They beat Fulham, didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. So they look like the ones who have got a little bit of, you know, grit and determination in their ranks, and they might be able to, even if they got a draw, that would be an amazing result.
Yeah, indeed. David Moyes, Everton manager, has launched a fierce defence of Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta and Arsenal's style of play. That's because David Moyes isn't exactly famous for beautiful football, is he? But he's saying, you know, this perception of everyone playing the beautiful game would make football boring. It wouldn't actually, but I know what he means.
Yeah, I think obviously David Moyes got a soft spot for Arteta. He signed him for Everton 20 years ago. But I think it's also in response to the last Premier League game Arsenal played at Brighton, when their manager Fabian Hürzeler basically said, I wouldn't play this style of football. I think it's a little bit rich. I think there's different styles of play in the Premier League. If we cast our minds back to when Jose Mourinho's Chelsea were winning the title, they were very defensive. They won a lot of games 1-0. Even Arsenal of the 90s 1-0 to the Arsenal. So I think it's just one of those things that they just have to move on.
You don't get many fans going around saying, well, we just won the Premier League and the Champions League, but I don't care because our style of play is so disappointing.
No.
If you're winning, no one cares about the style of play. I think David Moyes has got a point. Good to see you, Phil. Thank you so much. Get The Sun tomorrow for all your sports news. Phil Cadden there, night sports editor at The Sun. When we come back, very pleased to say I'll be joined by the brilliant commentator Brendan O'Neill. We're going to go through some of the big stories of the day. We'll talk about that St George's Day Boy Scouts parade as well. Yet again, I think that's a shocking story. And of course, the Middle Eastern war. Lots to talk about next. Brendan O'Neill is standing by. Be there or be square. See you in a minute.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Check this out. In about 20 minutes, we're going to talk about the NHS. They have translation. There are so many foreign patients, migrants, etc., that their bill for translation has risen, doubled since 2021, from £31 million then to £64 million last year. So it's more than doubled. And part of the reason is apparently because so many of the staff can't speak English properly. So we'll talk about that in a little while. In the meantime, very pleased to welcome to the show the chief political writer at Spiked Online, Brendan O'Neill. Welcome, Brendan.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm very good. I've been asking everybody about this story, but I'm very keen to get your take on it. It's the tale of two demonstrations. As you know, on Sunday there will be a fully fledged demonstration by supporters of our enemy, Iran. These people, frankly, in my mind, are pretty much traitors. They're going to support their beloved Ayatollah. They're going to support their beloved Iran, that tyrannical, murderous regime currently waging war on the West. But the police have said, yes, you can have that demonstration. A load of old claptrap being spewed. But, oh, it's only static. Who ever heard of this nonsense before? OK, it won't be a march, but it's still going to be allowed. Meanwhile, over in East London, so that's central London, over in East London, in the Romford area, the police have told the Boy Scouts there that they won't be able to police their St George's Day parade. Until dramatic events today, but as this show was started, that march was banned by Havering Council, the local council, because the police wouldn't police it unless the Boy Scouts gave them £9,000. Brilliantly, in the last couple of hours, a local businessman, I keep hailing his name because he deserves it, his name's Dean Floyd, he said, I'll pay the £9,000. So he's going to pay for the police. So at the 11th hour, the Boy Scouts will just about be able to have their St George's Day parade. No thanks to the police. I'll guarantee you, Brendan, that the Al-Quds demonstrators on Sunday outside the Home Office, there'll be a lot of them, I guarantee they're not being charged anything. I mean, this is classic, isn't it? This is modern Britain. We allow a demonstration in support of our enemies, our cultural and political and indeed military enemies, Iran, but we ban Boy Scouts from having a parade on St George's Day to celebrate their English heritage. What is going wrong?
Yeah, you know, every now and then there's a story which really sums up the nation, and this feels like one of them, because kids can't march for St George's Day, you know, waving their little flags unless they cough up £9,000 to the cops. And then on the other side, you've got these Al-Quds nutters who are allowed to gather and assemble as they please. And they'll be screaming blue murder about Israel, about the Jewish state. They'll be making their anti-Semitic comments like they do every year on this demonstration. You know, let's be clear about this. This is a hate march. It's always been a hate march. It was instituted by the Iranian regime itself to take place around the world in different cities every year. It's about celebrating the theocratic tyrants in Tehran. It's about demonizing the Jewish homeland. It's about demonizing Jews. On previous marches in London, they've carried the Hezbollah flag and they've praised Hamas. I mean, this is a bunch of nutters. I think you're absolutely right. This is treasonous behavior. Because, you know, I don't want to get into comparing the modern day to the Nazi era, because I don't think they are comparable, however bad things might be getting. But this, to me, is not too distant from when, if Brits had taken to the streets to sing the praises of the Nazi regime, because the Iranian theocrats are at war with the Western world. They're at war with our ally of Israel and our ally of America. On the 7th of October 2023, when the Iranian proxy Hamas invaded Israel, they killed 18 British citizens that day. So this is the regime that funds the murder of Brits. And yet you've got people on the streets of London singing its praises. It's absolutely sick-making to see see stuff like this. And as you say, at the exact same time, Boy Scouts can't even take to the streets for St. George's Day unless they pay money to the cops. It's outrageous.
It is, and I know, Brendan, that like me, you're always queasy about the idea of banning demonstrations, banning protests, banning marches. You know, my take on the pro-Palestine marches that continue to snake through our main cities most weekends is a lot of people say they should be banned, they should be banned. I don't want to ban them. I want the police to police them properly. Allow those marches to happen. But if you see jihad chants, if you see people shouting from the river to the sea or death to the IDF, that's against the law, or supporting Hamas, that's against the law. Arrest them. The trouble with those marches is the police just stand and watch them and let these demonstrators break the law. As for the event on Sunday, even by my sort of libertarian standards, I think that crosses the line. This is a demonstration in support of our enemies, our clear enemies, and it's the equivalent, as you allude to, of during the Second World War allowing a great big demonstration in favour of Adolf Hitler and the Holocaust. You know, so I do think, you know, I don't say this lightly because I hate banning protests. I hate banning this sort of thing. But I do think Sundays, I don't care if it's static or not, should have been banned.
You know, I'm torn on this, and I actually haven't made my mind up, which is unusual for me when there's a big issue in the news. I usually make my mind up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I'm a bit torn on this. I'm leaning more to your position, I think. I do think, you know, there comes a moment when the government, or, you know, on behalf of the people, has to say, look, enough is enough. You know, the thing about the so-called pro-Palestine marches, which, as you know, Kevin, were actually just hate marches against Israel and often crossed the line into anti-Semitism. The thing I felt about those is, listen, guys, you've made your point. We know you hate the Jewish nation. We know you are obsessed with Israel. We know that you want to see this country destroyed because you're a bunch of bigots. You've told us every weekend for 2.5 years. You've made your point. So please go home. Please stop marching. That's how I felt about those marches. With this one, you know, the only reason I would err towards letting it happen is because it will let us see how bad things have got in this country. And I do worry that the government, if the government was able to prevent this from happening, or had the gumption to prevent it from happening, which it doesn't really seem to have, it would be able to hide the consequences of the ideology of multiculturalism. Because on Sunday, whatever takes place, we will see those consequences. We will see that there are significant numbers of people in our country who are so badly integrated, who are so hostile to the country in which they live, in which their kids are educated, in which they might receive welfare benefits or have jobs or whatever else it might be. They're so hostile to that country that they are cheering on our enemies. They are on the side of a bunch of theocratic tyrants who despise the West and whose slogans are death to America and death to Israel. So the only plus side of this taking place, I think, is that we will see as clear as day that we have a serious problem of multicultural division and hatred in this country.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. The only thing is, I think we see this sort of thing most weekends with these pro-Palestine marches, and it hasn't sort of recalibrated the attitude of the nation generally. I think along the way, I think I'm going to demand on Monday an explanation from the police as to why you want to charge Boy Scouts £9,000 to police their harmless St. George's Day parade, and yet you let the enemies of this nation have a great big demonstration and you don't charge them a penny. I'd like to know an answer to that question. On this, let's talk about the war for a second. A couple of weeks ago, a couple of weekends ago, 2 missiles were fired by Iran. It may have been from Hezbollah territory, but they're Iranian missiles fired at our airbase on Cyprus. One of them hit the runway, the other one mercifully missed, and also mercifully no one was injured, but they could well have been. That's the first time that this British territory has been attacked militarily since the Falklands War in 1982. So it's quite a significant event. What did we do? Nothing. Our Prime Minister and the Defence Secretary called for de-escalation. Magnificent. So we allowed an enemy to bomb us and just said, please can we de-escalate? Currently, right now, at an air base we share with America, or a military base we share with America in Iran, our boys and girls, our soldiers are fighting for their lives. And they have been since yesterday, being rained upon by Iranian missiles. Our Prime Minister, it's time to de-escalate. We've become a nation that allows an enemy to bomb us and we do nothing about it. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
You know, the moral cowardice on display from Keir Starmer's government is really shocking. And you're absolutely right. You know, we've been fired upon by the Iranian regime and its proxies, and we're just sitting back and saying, oh, please stop, please calm down, please don't do this to us. As I said earlier, British citizens were killed in Israel, including a 13-year-old girl, by the way. A 13-year-old British citizen was killed on 7th of October by an army of anti-Semites that receives hundreds of millions of dollars from Iran every year. This is what we're talking about. And yet we have a government that says, well, nothing to do with us, nothing to see here. Please leave us alone. We're just going to sit it out. I'm sorry, but the government doesn't have that option. It needs to develop a backbone and tell us where it stands. Is it on the side of the democratic state of Israel, or is it on the side of the tyrants in the Islamic Republic? We need some moral clarity. But, you know, there's a broader culture of moral defeatism around this war, which I find really repugnant. You can see it in the media coverage. You certainly see it in left-wing protesting and left-wing commentary. You almost get the impression that some people want America and Israel to be taught a lesson. You get the impression that there are people in this country, we know this for a fact, and we'll see it on Sunday, there are people in this country who want Iran to win.
I know.
And it's just so extraordinary to think about that. People, I think, don't realize what's at stake in this conflict. Because if the Islamic Republic emerges emboldened from this war, it will be disastrous for humankind. It will be disastrous in the region, where our ally Israel would face an even greater threat. It would be disastrous for the world because Islamism would get a new lease of life. It would be really catastrophic. You know, people say this is another Iraq. It's not another Iraq. You know, Iraq was, in my view, a calamity. It was built on myths about the immediate threat that Saddam Hussein posed to the West. But Iran is a threat. It started this war by attacking our friends and allies, and it has spread terror around the world. So the defeatism around this conflict, the cowardice from Keir Starmer, I find it really, really shocking.
I agree. I have no truck with I have no problem with trying to take out this regime. I do think the realities and the practicalities of it are going to be a lot more difficult than Trump had envisaged. But in principle, getting rid of that hideous regime is a great idea. And it may well be, when people say, well, why did they do it now? Well, it may well be. John Bolton, of all people, the other day, who can't stand Donald Trump, said that he supported the president's decision to strike now, because he said Iran may well have been within 3 days of being having a nuclear weapon. So no problem, but I do think it's going to be a lot more difficult than Trump envisaged, that notwithstanding. Let's return to domestic affairs, if you don't mind, Brendan, and let's talk about our friend Mandelson. Particularly disgusting a picture emerging today of Mandelson in his bathrobe, Prince Andrew in his bathrobe, and Jeffrey Epstein unusually wearing clothes. That is at Martha's Vineyard, apparently, but it just sort of sums it all up, doesn't it? This era of elitism, us and them, you know, these people enjoying the hospitality of a paedophile who's got a lot of money. Absolutely disgusting to look at. But today, in terms of the Mandelson saga and the Prime Minister's handling of appointing him to the position, the key position of our ambassador to the United States of America, it emerged that never once in the build-up to giving Mandelson the gig did Starmer talk to him. He left that to two of Mandelson's mates, Morgan McSweeney, the then Chief of Staff, and Matthew Doyle, the then Communications Chief at number 10 Downing Street. You don't vet someone by getting their friends to chat to them. This was an egregious dereliction of duty by the Prime Minister, and also it proves that when he stood in the House of Commons the other day and assured Parliament that he had followed full due vetting process before appointing Mandelson. That was just a barefaced lie. This just gets worse and worse.
It absolutely gets worse and worse. Every aspect of it is catastrophic for Starmer, I think. And let's not forget, because people often kind of breeze over the fact that Mandelson's position that he was given, the ambassador to the US, that is such an important job. That is the #1 diplomatic job in British affairs, in world affairs. In fact, every country thinks very carefully about who it sends to America. What caliber of person are they going to send into the most powerful country in the Western world to represent our interests, to make the bidding of our country with the American empire, in Washington, where the real power is broken. It's extraordinary that we just had such a cavalier, ridiculous approach to who we appointed. And we now know, as you say, from all these documents, that questions were raised about Mandelson. It was seen that it might pose a reputational risk if things went wrong with him. His relationships with Epstein were well known. The public knew about them, never mind officials in Whitehall. And as you say, Starmer didn't speak to him. Starmer didn't think about it seriously enough. He just went along with it. Morgan McSweeney probably said, let's do it. He's a good bloke. And then Mandelson went off to Washington. A serious, serious diplomatic failure. And the thing is, Starmer said that he would end the era of sleaze. He kept going on and on about Tory sleaze, those sleazy Tories. We're going to come in, we'll be the clean-cut guys, the adults back in the room, the sensible people coming to run the government at last after 14 years of Tory nutters. He's turned out to be the sleaziest government of all. He's up to his neck in scandal. It seems there's one scandal after another, and he's riding them out at the moment. But I think the only reason he's riding them out is because the Labour Party, the Parliamentary Labour Party, are a bunch of cowards, and none of them have got the gumption to push him out of power because they're all scared of losing their seats. The only thing he's got going for him, the only reason he's clinging to power with his fingernails is because the Labour Party itself is such a busted flush. I mean, what a rubbish government we've got right now.
It's just so pathetic. It really is. And of course, during Boris Johnson's decline and fall, no one was louder in his condemnation of he lies. This Prime Minister lies and lies and lies. What was Boris lying about? A few parties in Downing Street and around Westminster, which of course were a very bad idea. Boris is a bit of a fibber. But the lies that Boris was telling about something that didn't matter that much, a few cakes, a few glasses of wine during the COVID crisis, are nothing compared to the lies that Starmer has been assailing us with now for months.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what did Boris Johnson do? He sang happy birthday. He had some cake. He had some glasses of wine in the Downing Street garden. And what we're talking about with Starmer is putting a friend of a pedo into Washington. I mean, it's a different order entirely. But, I find it really surprising. Well, actually, I'm lying. I'm not that surprised that, the media hasn't run with it in the way that they did with the Boris Johnson Partygate. The media, I'm talking about the liberal media, the BBC, the kind of influential opinion-forming classes, they're not running with the Starmer scandals at all. They're not pushing them in the way they absolutely would be pushing them if this was a Conservative Prime Minister who had done this, or heaven forbid, a Reform Prime Minister in the future. If they did something like this would never be off the front pages. It would never be off the top of the BBC. But they're letting Starmer have an easy ride. And so this is it. I think a lot of this scandal points to the disproportionate influence that the liberal media has on politics itself. And they get to define what's a real scandal and what isn't. So we've got our voices, and I think lots of ordinary people out there screaming for more focus on this scandal, and it's just not coming.
And let me get you on as a final point that you've kind of alluded to there, because I was watching the TV and listening to the radio and reading all the papers over the weekend as this Mandelson saga got worse and worse and worse. And the BBC in particular, they were beginning to sort of say, well, this is Keir Starmer's finest hour, keeping us out of the war. Well, first of all, we were never invited to join the war. So that is a mischaracterization. As I said, what America asked, what Donald Trump asked him is the equivalent of an international equivalent of a neighbour saying, do you mind if I park my car in your drive overnight? He said, can I use your runways to attack Iran? And Starmer said no. The BBC saying it's very statesmanlike. This could pull him out of the rabbit hole. This could be good. And in all these discussions, why was he reticent to help America fight Iran? Because Iran is a Muslim country, it's an Islamic country, and he knows that a fair few of our 4 million Muslims who live in this country actually would support Iran. He doesn't want to alienate them. So he didn't want to support America in attacking an Islamic country. So in all this debate, all over the BBC especially, but the ITV, Channel 4, never once was the Muslim vote mentioned among the possible reasons as to why Starmer said no to Trump. Never once. It's the main reason, if you ask me.
I couldn't agree more. And especially in the wake of Gorton and Denton, which I think really has put the wind up Labour, because the Green Party, as we all know, rode to power in that by-election on the back of the Muslim vote, on the back of family voting, allegedly, on the back of a kind of clannish vote, if we're going to be honest, the way in which certain constituencies tend to vote. That's how the Green Party won, and it's put the wind up Labour, because the Green Party actually beat Labour in its own game, because Labour has been doing that for years, of course, in certain Muslim-heavy constituencies. But you're right, this is a form of appeasement. They are appeasing what they presume will be Muslim anger in the country if they were to help take action against Iran. That's incredibly worrying. And just think about what we've seen over the past week. We've seen the arrest of 4 men on suspicion of spying on Jewish institutions for the Islamic Republic. 4 men were arrested in London on that suspicion. We've seen men in London, Iranian supporters of the regime, beating up Iranian dissidents outside an Islamic center in Kilburn. We've seen numerous gatherings where people have set fire to the Israeli flag and chanted Allahu Akbar and sang the praises of the Ayatollah. All of this has happened in the UK over the past week. And what has Starmer been wanging on about? Anti-Muslim hostility, the problem of Islamophobia. So this is almost Kafkaesque, where we have a serious problem with Islamism, with radical Islam, and it's really exploded to the surface of our society since the start of the Iran war. And they're going on and on about Islamophobia. We need a new Islamophobia SAR. We need to tackle anti-Muslim hostility. I tell you what we need to tackle: anti-British hostility, anti-Western hostility, which is coming from the Islamist mob and their suicidal allies on the left. That's what the government should be tackling. But of course, they can't because they're scared of losing Muslim votes.
Yeah, Gorton and Denton now dictating British foreign policy. Good, isn't it? Brendan, fantastic to talk to you. Please come on again soon. Brendan O'Neill, their chief political writer at Spiked Online. Let me quickly remind you of our competition. We're giving you the chance to win 2 hospitality tickets to the British Grand Prix on Sunday, the 5th of July, with full racing green trackside experience. This is the ultimate setup for race day. You'll get exclusive grandstand seats at the Loop and Village Corners, plus inner track access to watch the drivers arriving at the paddock, and access to the hospitality shuttle bus for easy on-site transport, racing simulators and live music between sessions, all-day street food and an open bar. Listen up to find out how you could be in with a chance to win.
For your chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text costs £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or call 0343 418 7260. Lines close 20th of March 2026 at 4 p.m. That's when you'll need to answer your phone if it rings. 18 plus UK residents only. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now.
It's the perfect Silverstone race day experience for any F1 fan, so don't miss out. Coming up after the break, it's Andrew Allison, Head of Campaigns at Popular Conservatism. Stay tuned.
think Donald Trump has a plan post-war?
A couple of weeks ago, when he started this off, he made a speech saying help would be on the way for the people. There was going to be regime change.
He appointed Mandelson against advice. We know this to be true. If this was a Conservative Prime Minister, the wider left would be absolutely screaming for his resignation.
Government's announced this afternoon, we're setting up a people's panel to work out exactly how you want us to roll out these digital IDs. We don't want them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Coming up in just a little while, it's Dial-A Dame. Andrea Jenkins from Reform UK will be joining us. Get your calls in. She's here to answer all your questions. 0344 499 1000. That's Dame Andrea Jenkins, the Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire, Reform UK luminary. So that next in a little while. But first, let's just quickly cover this story because I think it's important. Basically, the translation services for the NHS, the cost of that in 2021 it was £31 million. In itself a scandal. 31 million quid to translate for people who can't speak English. Last year 24-25 64 million. So it is rising super fast, astronomically. And you say, oh, well, a lot of foreign patients, people can't speak English, migrants and all that. Well, I guess that's going to happen. It's a scandal. But, well, it's not just that. It's that apparently too many of the staff, NHS staff, can't speak proper English. Hence, the translation costs are soaring. Absolutely extraordinary. Let's talk to Head of Campaigns at Popular Conservatism, Andrew Allison. Yeah, that is, I mean, it's almost bizarre, that, isn't it, Andrew? It's annoying enough that our health service has to spend £64 million, you would assume, to deal with patients who can't speak English. But it turns out that a fair proportion of that money is spent because the staff can't speak proper English. What's going on?
It's the National Health Service, not the International Health Service. And if people can't speak English and they need to find translators to help them along their way, then fine. But it shouldn't be taxpayers who have to pay the bill. I'm sure that if you or I went across to another country and English wasn't the first language, not only would we have to pay the medical bills, or our insurance company would have to pay the medical bills, if there was any translation bills in there, we'd also have to pay for that as well. So I just don't think we should be paying a penny for translation services at all. It should be up to the patients to pay for that themselves. But the issue with staff, it's utterly mind-blowing. How on earth can you have people working in the NHS dealing with patients, perhaps in medical procedures, in operating theatres, perhaps, and they can't really communicate properly with each other? I mean, that's just utterly incredible and should not be allowed to happen.
I did have cause to go to a hospital not so long ago, because we have these things that go in your ear like that. This is an earbud, and mine fell into my ear. It came off and fell into my eardrum. That's another story. So I had to go to a hospital to get the lady doctor to get it out. And I was talking, so I went to reception, and the lady there, very nice lady there, but I couldn't understand a word she said. She had such a strong accent. Her English was frankly not up to speed. So that's a small story to illustrate what we're talking about, that there are significant number of people working for the NHS who can't speak good English. That's just not good enough, is it?
Yes, I visit hospitals reasonably regularly because I have a back issue that requires treatment every couple of years or so. And I have to admit, yeah, the standard sometimes is very poor, and you can't really understand the stuff very well, particularly when you're talking about surgeons who may be operating on you. You really do want to understand what they're saying, and it's really imperative that they understand what you're saying. But the earbud thing in your ear reminds me when my young son was 2 years old and he got a raisin stuck up his nose. We had to go to the hospital for that.
Yeah, bizarre things do happen. The Health Minister, Karen Smith, when asked about this staff English problem in the NHS, said no assessment has been made by the department of the adequacy of English language proficiency requirements for registered nurses and care staff in National Health Service settings. Well, it's about time you made an assessment, isn't it?
I mean, that is shocking as well, isn't it? The government doesn't even know. The NHS doesn't know. They don't even have standards set. It just allows anybody in, hopes for the best.
Yeah,
and this is the so-called envy of the world, Kevin.
Exactly. Yeah, really. 64 million for translation, folks. 64 million pounds. Not only because the patients can't speak English, but because the staff can't. 03444991000. Andrew, great to speak to you. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you very much. Andrew Allison there, head of campaigns at Popular Conservatives. Next up, it is the great Andrea Jenkins. Before we go to break, I have another show that comes on tonight at 9 p.m. Here on Talk. It's called What Just Happens. Also, tomorrow morning, it goes on to YouTube around about 9:30. You can watch it anytime you like. But as for tonight, 9 p.m, it's What Just Happened. If you're not watching on the telly, it's very radio friendly. Here's a snippet from tonight's show. It's getting to the point where the majority of people are on benefits. These migrants breaking to our country illegally, we put them in hotels. Nice four-star hotels, and then we give them 50 quid a week benefits, and then after they've been here about 3 years, we put them on full welfare. This country, folks, is barking mad. It is no longer a country. It is a welfare system with a state attached to it. That's me, and next to me, of course, are my trusty co-stars, the brilliant Samara Gill and the amazing Ash Gould, Flash Ash Gould. 9 o'clock tonight, don't miss it. Brilliant, it's absolutely brilliant. Let's go to break. When we come back, it's Dial a Dame with Andrea Jenkins. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to Reform UK's Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire, get it right, Kev. Dame Andrea Jenkins. Welcome, Andrea.
Kevin, great to see you. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. I'm really glad to have you. This is the first time I'm doing drive time now, so it's the first time you've been on.
Congratulations. Prime spot, isn't it?
Exactly. Huge show. And I need huge personalities, huge guests like you. Listen, let's get right down to it.
As long as you got a huge pay packet.
Yeah, well, let's not go there, eh? You can't have everything, Andrea. Right, look, Dial a Dame, we've got some calls coming in for you. Lots of big issues to talk about. Yeah. There's a story going that I've been covering all day. A Boy Scouts St George's Day parade in East London was banned by the police. Because the boys couldn't stump up £9,000. Luckily, a local businessman has just come up with the money, so it is going to go ahead now, so that's a relief. Meanwhile, I bet you the police aren't charging those treacherous Iranian fans a single penny for their static rally, their demonstrations outside the Home Office on Sunday. Let's talk about this. First call is Stephen from Dover. Stephen, you're with me, of course, also with Dame Andrea Jenkins. What would you like to say?
Stephen.
Well, you can tell me if I'm stupid or not, but this static protest, can you tell me, are they going to be parachuted in, or would you suspect that they are going to march to the site?
Well, one thing I would say, first of all, Stephen, and let's get Andrea's take. I know marches are a little bit more difficult to police, but let's not let them get away with saying, hey, we've really cracked down. That they're allowing this demonstration to support our enemy, Iran, to support the Ayatollah. So let's not worry about whether or not it's static or mobile, eh? What's your response, Andrea?
I completely agree, Kevin. I mean, it's a very sad day in Britain, isn't it, when a few scouts and some bunting, it was cancelled and not allowed to happen because of a health and safety hazard. Yet our enemy, where, you know, there've been drone attacks on our troops abroad, people are allowed to sort of celebrate them. It is unfair. And the government's got to start cracking down, but of course they won't, because this is their voter base.
Yeah. What do you feel about that, Stephen?
Well, I think it's absolutely disgusting, isn't it? Absolutely terrible. And how naive do they think we are? They are going to be in a large march walking to this static.
Yeah, but I mean, as I say, yeah, you're right. They're going to have to walk there, obviously. But I mean, you know, I don't think we should just get bogged down in whether or not it's mobile or not. Who cares? I mean, the fact is, we are allowing a major rally, a major demonstration to happen in central London on Sunday to support our enemy, to support that murderous thug, the Ayatollah. It's outrageous, don't you think, Stephen?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely agree with everything you said. It's absolutely disgusting. And where are we going to end up? That's what worries me.
Yeah.
I keep thinking, Stephen, don't you? It can't get any worse, but it keeps getting worse, doesn't it, under this government?
Yeah. And where are we at the lowest? Are we there yet? Or are we going to have civil unrest?
I think that's a good question. There is a feeling, don't you? I mean, one doesn't want to even encourage this line of thought, but there is a feeling, there's a mood in this nation, and you just wonder how much or whether or not civil disobedience might unfold in sheer fury over the incompetence of this government.
Completely. And it's every day gets worse. I mean, my inbox is just on steroids at the moment with people. Yeah, I mean, people are just not in a good place in the country, full stop, are they? And it is this two-tier bureaucracy system, as we've seen with St George's Day. And you know, St George's Day, it brings people together. In my old constituency, Kevin, we had like 10,000 people over the weekend lining the streets. It was absolutely wonderful. And what's wrong with celebrating being English? And that's what the problem is two-tier bureaucracy, Kevin. It's because we're celebrating our own country, and that's not okay in the world of Labour MPs and Labour government.
Can I ask you, Stephen, what you think about this? These Boy Scouts, luckily, we've learned this afternoon, because, by the way, your colleague from Reform UK, Andrew Rossendale, the local MP, came into the studio and announced that a big-hearted local businessman had stumped up the £9,000 that the police were charging these Boy Scouts for their traditional St George's Day parade. They've never been charged this before. Suddenly they want £9,000. What do you think about that, Stephen? That the police are asking Boy Scouts £9,000 to put to police their perfectly harmless St George's Day parade, but they're not charging these Al-Quds Iranian supporter demonstrations a penny for their big rally on Sunday to support the Ayatollah. What do you think about that?
What worries me is I congratulate the man on putting the money up and it going ahead.
Yeah.
But what worries me is that now this boys' rally will be kidnapped by protesters.
Well, they are going to get... Yeah, I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. Don't forget, it's not for a few weeks yet, so hopefully people will have forgotten this. But I take your point, Stephen. Stephen, thank you very much. Stephen from Dover there. Let's go to Anne in Sussex. Hello, Anne. I'm with Dame Andrea Jenkins. What would you like to ask her?
Well, I don't know. But what I wanted to say, Kevin, that I am absolutely... It's no good being disgusted now. I was disgusted before this government was elected because of the lies that went out from most channels about how dreadful the Conservatives were. And I used to be a Lib Dem, so I'm not totally...
I wouldn't admit that in public, Anne, if I was you. I'd keep that to yourself. I really would.
Well, I was a Liberal before the other lot all came on board.
I'm only joking. Sorry, carry on.
Right, darling, while I'm ringing, is because what happened to the Police and Crime Commissioner is Havering, I think you said it was. Yeah. Why aren't they jumping up and down and saying this is unacceptable? This businessman who's put up the £9,000, he should never have had to do that. You know, we're all paying huge council taxes to all these council, the police, everything else. And then something as important as the Boy Scouts celebrating St George's Day, or Girl Scouts, and it's not allowed. And then these people have been helped into the country for a very long time who do not like us. I remember when Gaddafi was alive and we had the issues in Ireland, and Labour people went out to get the money to buy the weapons for Northern Ireland. You know, the Labour government just does not like the English.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. Where does this come from, Andrea? Because, you know, I know that, you know...
I hope Andrea knows.
Well, I was going to ask... well, let's both ask Andrea this. Yes. You know, I accept when football clubs have matches that they do... You know, the police say... the football clubs pay the police to come and police them. I think that's fair enough. Yeah. But where did this come from, that if, say, Boy Scouts want to have a little St George's Day parade, where did this suddenly come from, that the police start to charge people, or like the Boy Scouts?
Well, it's also the councils as well, isn't it, Kevin? Yeah. I mean, I know Lincolnshire, some of the councils, the city councils, etc., that all get together and do this. Yeah. Like, I wanted to bring back the Christmas market in Lincolnshire, and you know, we got quoted about 80 grand for putting protection in.
Did you?
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it just the police's job, Andrea, to isn't that just their job? I mean, it's a bit like sort of, you know, me coming to work and saying, right, I'm not gonna do the show until you give me another, you know, 500 quid or something. You know,
I blame.
That's not a bad idea. Actually, I might try that.
Sorry, I blame Blair and Cherry Blair with all the human rights stuff and the suing culture that was imported from the US. That we've become very risk averse, haven't we? Yeah. And so they try to get more money. Money goes to the councils.
I say the police should just do this. This is their job. They won't be charging these Iranian fans on Sunday. So why are they charging? It
depends on each area, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, look, we had a big solar farm rally against the solar farms last year, and you know, we didn't have to pay anything for that. So again, it's a two-tier system. It depends where in the country this is. It's on the discretion of the police, etc., as well, and the local councils. But I mean, as I said, we had an amazing St George's Day up in Morley when I was an MP there, and it's about bringing communities together, and it really does bring communities together. And
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what worries me.
We're living in this day and age.
Or not.
Well, I'll tell you what worries me is I just think it's this classic thing. Oh, St George's. The St George's flag. Oh, we don't want that. Listen, Anne, I'm going to have to go because I've got to go to break. But excellent call. Thank you for ringing, Anne in Sussex. We'll go to break. We'll go to break now, Andrea. When we come back, we'll talk to Georgina in London. You're going to like that. That next.
Do you think Donald Trump has a plan post-war?
A couple of weeks ago, when he started this off, he made a speech saying help would be on the way for the people. There was going to be regime change.
He appointed Mandelson against advice. We know this to be true. If this was a Conservative Prime Minister, the wider left would be absolutely screaming for his resignation.
Government's announced this afternoon, we're setting up a people's panel to work out exactly how you want us to roll out these digital IDs. We don't want them.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go. I'm with Dame Andrea Jenkins. It's Dialer Dame. Let's go over to our favourite caller, Georgina. By the way, Georgina, let me just stress to you, you can call this show as many times as you want. We love having you phoning in. Don't let anybody tell you. Don't let anybody tell you different. I mean it. You're part of the station now.
Kevin, honestly, that's actually brought a tear to my eye. Thank you so
I mean
much.
it. I mean it. Yeah. Don't let anybody tell you different. You're part of our setup. What would you like to ask Andrea?
Good evening, Andrea. It's lovely to talk to you again.
And you as well.
I mean, all of my little boys, I've got 4, well, they're not little now, they're all grown up, apart from my youngest who's 17, but they've all been Boy Scouts, and they so loved their St George's Day parade, and it's part of our culture, Andrea, and it's part of our Indigenous children's, the way they've been brought up. This is about our culture, our England, our children. But the thing is, this is being stopped. This parade for our children is being stopped. But pro-Palestinian and
pro-Iran.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin, are being allowed to go ahead and can be policed. Where does the buck stop with this? Who's responsible for this decision? Andrea, we're being erased.
Oh, completely. I agree with you.
So,
I mean, look, Clifford's been in the Beavers and the Cubs, etc. He's not old enough for the Scouts yet, and it's wonderful seeing them parade, isn't it? And it gives them confidence. The Scouts and Cubs teach life skills, and it's wonderful. And you're right; it's about celebrating our culture, Britishness as well. And I mean, the local Scouts and Cubs, they always go out on Armed Forces Day as well, don't they? They lay a wreath, and it's really wonderful. And for little groups like this to have to pay £9,000, it's just appalling. And as we all agree, it's a two-tier system, and it's just got to stop.
And why? If I can ask, why? I'll just put this on to the table. Why are we allowing? We're banning it, or we almost banned a St George's Day parade on the part of the Boy Scouts in East London, in central London on Sunday. Why are we allowing our enemies, people I would describe as traitors, to have a demonstration in favour to support our enemy Iran? Why are we allowing that, Andrea?
Why? Because we've got politicians who don't believe in our country, isn't it? They care more about other countries. And I mean, the job of any government, of any mayor, of any elected council should be actually representing your constituents and being supportive of our culture as well. I believe that. And it's just so wrong. Absolutely. And until we elect the right type of politicians who care for our country, then we will keep being in this situation. I mean, look, what's made it worse is the rise of the Green Party as well, isn't it? We saw what happened in that recent by-election, the videos that the Green Party was putting out, pro-Palestine, etc. And we've got the enemy within sometimes, haven't we, where they hate our own country. Yeah. And that is a deep concern.
May I just say, this is our Scouts, and our Cubs, but it's also now getting into our schools, our primary schools, all this Islam and the Muslim faith and everything. It's got to a point now where our children, they're finding it offends them if they draw pictures of Jesus, or if they want to go to dancing clubs in school and things like that. Now, I find this very insidious, and it's worrying me a lot, the fact that we have allowed a different culture to come into our country.
See, it's the Islamification of Britain. We've got a problem. Georgina, listen, I've got to take another call, but it's always good to hear from you. Have a lovely weekend, and you call me on Monday.
All the best, Georgina.
Take care. Call me on Monday, 100%. Let's go to Les in Birmingham. Welcome, Les, with Andrea Jenkins. What would you like to say?
Oh, well, I just wanted to make a very quick but very pertinent point, and that is the irony of these people going on a march in favour of a regime that shoots dead people that go on marches.
That's a very good point.
That's just completely bonkers. How on earth can they do that?
Or if somebody's gay as well, isn't it? Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, these people going on the march, supposedly because they love the Iranians, well, how can, it's just back to...
But look at their record on women as well. It's abhorrent, isn't it?
Exactly.
I mean, thousands of women have been murdered by the regime, and, why the left is not actually standing up for those women.
Yeah, and I'll just look at a film of footage of these marches snaking through. Like, stop bombing Iran, stop bombing Iran, as if Iran's a poor, helpless nation, wonderful place that we, the evil Westerners, are trying to destroy. There's a reason.
Why don't they go and live there, Kevin? That's what I say.
Yeah, exactly.
If they love it that much, go and live there.
Exactly right, exactly right. Les, thank you for an excellent call, and have a nice weekend. Les in Birmingham. Andrea, Thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you're going off on your travels, but when you come back, well, let us know about that, and because I know you're going on a very interesting trip, and come back on the show. We'll do another Dial a Dame. Thank you very much, Andrea. Andrea Jenkins, Dame Andrea Jenkins, Reform UK Mayor of Greater Lincolnshire. In the studio, it is the world's greatest living Northern Irishman. It is Peter Carwell.
Well,
How you doing?
I'm not sure Rory McIlroy will be too happy about that, or indeed Eamon Holmes.
Yeah, good point. The third greatest living Northern Irishman.
I very much just style myself as the pound shop Eamon Holmes. So there we are. Well, listen, a really interesting discussion there with Dame Andrea, and we'll be just continuing that discussion. I especially want to look into why on earth the organisation that is organising this gathering on Sunday has charitable status. Why on earth should they get tax breaks? Yeah, they're a charity. Also, we have the fact that one of their leaders, one of the co-founders, went to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei to present a paper on Islamophobia in the UK. Seriously.
And the leader's been one of the ringleaders of the organisation, or the demonstrations, been filmed shouting death to the idea.
We're going to talk about that as well.
It's ridiculous. By the way, we've sort of unfolding news we've had on this show, because I kicked off the show by compare and contrast. We're allowing a demonstration in favour of our enemy, Iran, but we ban a St George's Day parade by the Boy Scouts in East London. Literally on air.
Says it all.
A businessman